Next thing on the agenda, the approval of the minutes from January 24th and February 7th. I thought they were good.
The only thing I saw is that it said, the academy walkthrough was gonna be the 5th, which obviously it wasn't, because that was yesterday that we voted on. It is the 11th. So that was the only thing I needed to say in the minutes. So
What time on the 11th? I've got two different.
it's at 11, 11 on the 11th.
And is that open to the public?
Yes,
Okay.
it's been posted everywhere.
What day of the week is?
That's Monday,
It's a Monday.
this coming Monday.
I'll move that the minutes be approved with the change suggested by Chris.
I'll second.
There's a motion by Joe, second by Chris to approve the minutes for the meeting, the meetings on January 24 and February 7. All those in favor?
I'm going to abstain on that because I wasn't, or at least one of them. I was away. Hence the TAM.
Awesome. You.
Thank you. Can I have one more copy of the agenda?
Sorry.
Yeah.
The next thing are department reports and you.
Fire department, for the past couple of months has been a little below average for our call volume. Looking at the incident reports, we had I think about 16 or so for the last 8 weeks. Ain't a bad thing. This time of year, we're usually much busier, but storms have been a little relaxed, so it's probably part of it. And not as cold, so not as many heat incidents. Fundraiser went very well. Place we ended up raising over $17,000 for the Monmouth Firehouse Museum. Nice, I'm pretty proud of that. Want to thank everybody for their support that came out and bought raffle tickets and gave donations during that event. The museum committee, we're in the process right now of securing contractors for the next phase, which will be the earthwork and the foundation. So we're hoping to do that in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So if that seems the movement down, yes. No, take your time. We're gonna be jumping right into the Monmouth Beach Party. It's gonna, this year will be our 8th annual. So we've got a committee meeting coming up after next. Start planning for that event, which is scheduled for July 6th. This weekend, 5 of us, mostly officers, 1 firefighter, are going to go into Wells for a weekend of training, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Drinking, promise. Looking forward to that. That's with the New England Fools Conference down in Wells. We did it last year, and it was really, really good seminar with top-notch people from around the United States. I mentioned at the last meeting that I attended here, the bay lights are being replaced. They have now since been replaced at the center station. They're smaller fixtures, but they're twice as bright and they're more efficient than the old ones. So you can see energy savings. I do want to thank Ed Guyer and A+K that helped install this on Monday. This week is National Breakfast Week down at the school. So we were asked by Paul Parsons to participate in that, and we've had several firefighters sign up to go there and serve breakfast for the kiddos. I went Tuesday morning, had a blast serving donuts. I did not again. But it was really fun. I couldn't. Captain Fuller was with me, and we served what 240 donuts in about a 30-minute time. It was a little feverish there at times. We'll be going again tomorrow morning and Friday. This Sunday is our turn at the community dinner for Neighbors Helping Neighbors. So with the help of the firefighters and the auxiliary members, we'll be serving a ham dinner, 4 o'clock. The last thing I got is training for the month of March. We're gonna be doing training on alternative fuel vehicles. Something new for us, and also lithium battery fire incidents. So for both of those training topics, because that's a hot topic, no pun intended.
This one. Good one.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and the Monmouth basketball boys won their first ever state title, and fire department, police department, we got to escort them in pouring rain late at night.
At midnight, right?
Did you guys get any complaints from any residents?
I haven't heard.
Loud
anything.
sirens?
I was waiting to
No,
hear. it,
I
but
heard
didn't.
that I had just finally calmed down enough to fall asleep, and so I heard him Welch Avenue and Maple Street, but I was.
Well, there's your
No,
complaint.
I'd watched the game, so
Oh,
I
okay.
was waiting for it and
All right,
anticipating
yeah.
it, and, you
Yeah.
know, had it been earlier in the day and not pouring rain, we would have been out at the end of the driveway, but
I can't believe they started games at 8:45.
yeah, they've always done that late game, so, always,
I-
always. I used to
Has it-
spend
has
my
it always
whole,
been that
yeah,
way? I don't
used to
remember that.
spend my whole February vacation at the Civic Center,
Yeah,
so.
my father used to always, he lived at those tournaments. I don't remember being there that late. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
a kid, so I don't know.
Didn't matter,
Yeah,
you
it
were
was
just
a nail
happy to
biter,
be
too.
out, it was.
Yeah, it was. wicked,
Oh,
yeah.
gosh.
But it was so late.
Seconds when they
Oh,
put it
geez,
downward.
And it was like this
It
for.
was right
online, just
It was close.
I
Yeah,
just gotta say, in regards to that, I was very impressed with the number of people on Main Street that actually were standing out at the end of their driveway waving flashlight at the bus when it went by.
Yeah.
And it started all the way up by Hughes House, all the way down to Quick Shop, and then from Quick Shop down, it was just packed.
In the rain too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nasty kind of night, yeah.
yeah.
Kind of proud of
Yeah.
our city.
We were
And it's the-
really
and it's the
proud of
first-
those boys.
And it's the first boys one, right?
Boys
For boys,
basketball.
right? The girls had
yes.
one before.
The
right?
girls have won before, but
Twice
this,
that.
yeah, exactly.
okay.
And these
Was,
the
was your?
daughters, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And these boys though are, 3 in a row in 9 months, in baseball, soccer and basketball. So,
And there's a good chance.
and we're not gonna jinx anything about baseball,
We're not gonna
but
go by
you know,
seasons like
we're
somebody
good.
else.
We're,
You hear that? Yeah. The Mount View, they all bought T-shirts that they had won, and they were throwing them out in the trash cans.
Oh.
well, that's the thing. They really did think they were gonna run roughshod over us coming from B down to C and.
Well, considering they posted on their page for the public in their districts, to not complain about the sirens going off at 1 o'clock in the morning. They come through with their gold balls.
Well,
Oh, I didn't
but-
see that. Oh, they did that too? Ah. That's bad.
Bad karma.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, what, do we win, right? No, Dewey didn't win.
Yeah, right,
Mount
right,
View's
exactly.
even,
That's
so.
right. Do we win? Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Yeah.
Well, good evening, everybody. This report that I'm providing you is January and February, seeing as how I didn't give you January's report, but January and February adult arrests. We've had 1 arrest for OUI, 1 arrest for assault, 1 arrest for theft, arrest for criminal threatening, 1 arrest for eluding an officer, 1 arrest for failure to stop an officer, 4 arrests on warrants, and then 4 arrests for operating after suspension, other motor vehicle violations or bail violations. And the 4 are grouped into that because it wasn't just an OAS, and other violations, underlying violations that occurred of the arrest other than the OAS. It's been a very busy first 2 months. January, February 2020 calls for service, we had 669 calls for service. During the period. Did someone get my handout that has my own hand scratching on it?
Right now.
Yeah, we all got it.
I had written notes on here that after it came off the print.
Hopefully you didn't say anything you didn't want anybody to.
Oh, no, March 24th, We're gonna be, Monmouth Police Department's gonna be hosting the community supper at the Packard Center. Theme night, it's Italian night, not hymn night. I'd like to invite you all to attend, your families. Like the community members to turn out, we should have plenty of food there, so looking forward to that. As per requirement by state law, all Monmouth officers are now carrying Narcan in their cruisers. Naloxone is a opioid antagonist, as we all know. It attaches itself to the opioid receptors and can reverse or block the effects of the opioids such as heroin, morphine, and oxycodone. So we have them now, every officer has them in their cruisers. I'll go on just an educational piece. Narcan is a temporary treatment and its effects do not last. Anybody who has OD'd and has been Narcan, we encourage them to seek medical attention. And just want everybody to understand that we are not there as an enforcement tool. We are there as an aid to rescue and save someone's life. And if you have someone you know that's overdosed, call 911 when we show up. It's not gonna be someone going to jail or someone getting summoned, so that our main purpose is to save people's lives. This other issue that I'm bringing up is a very recent court issue. As we all know, law enforcement, firefighters, EMS, we deal with the worst of the worst situations. Part of our way to deal with these critical incidents is critical incident debriefings. They're held by professionals who come in and educate us. And theme is when you go to a critical incident debriefing, you're expected to talk freely and openly about your feelings and what happened, so we can all deal with it. In a recent U.S. District Court out of Boston, Massachusetts, they just issued a ruling in the past week that information obtained during these debriefings is now discoverable and can be used in civil litigation. And it really upsets me that this ruling came down, because the whole purpose of this critical incident debriefing is for the public safety personnel to be able to speak freely and openly and keep their mental health intact. And with a ruling like this coming down, it really concerns me, because you're not gonna get people talking openly if they're subject to suit, disclosure on what is said in these debriefings. And that's just my rant for the night. It just upsets me, because our purpose, Dan and I's purpose for the meeting is for the health of our officers, our people who are dealing with this sort of stuff on the day in, day out basis. Having a ruling like this come out really undermines the mental health of our employees. Enough on that rant.
Chief, do you know if that case is being appealed?
It's so recent, it has not reached the appeal deadline, so no appeal has been filed as of right now. The way the dissent was written is that because you don't have for employee assistant program, they are not professionals. That way they don't look at it as a privilege, a client, doctor.
Medical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
medical.
So that's why they ruled the way they ruled. So at some point in the near future, we need to have an interpretation from our town's attorneys to see what we can do to protect our people in these situations for going forward. So.
Yeah, I'm
Have any thoughts on that?
No, I back you up 110%. I think it's a deterrent, for people to open up.
and I think it's important, especially for, how many folks in your profession have some form of PTSD that, takes a hold of their lives because they can't open up. So, of course, I'm not the legal expert here on the board, but I would imagine if you did use a licensed MD or psychologist or psychiatrist to facilitate the meeting, then perhaps courts would look differently on it.
Yeah, and that's open for interpretation after this ruling. It's so new. And that's why, once we see everything filter down from the legal end of things, we need to bring that to our town attorney and say, how can we deal with this going forward? Is that a solution to it? That was my immediate thought, but we don't know.
Tomorrow, I'm at MMA and I will ask the MMA legal department.
I mean, even a therapist, I would wonder, you
Right,
could establish.
right. It puts all that into question, right?
Right.
You know, yeah.
So,
So these briefings would include many people? I mean,
oh, yes.
uh,
I mean, the last briefing we had, I think we had 30 people in attendance there.
Yeah, but I mean, the scenario would be like, a similar medical scenario would be like group therapy. When you do group therapy, it's a doctor-patient relationship.
yeah, sometimes the privilege is waived if there are more, I mean, like priest penitent. If there's a priest there and a penitent, you can't have other people there as well, or doctor, patient. It's gotta be just the doctor and patient. I think when you have other people, that the privilege gets waived.
Yeah, and I think that's a concern that we would have going forward, because that's the way it works, is in the large groups, having people with a lot of experience opening up to people like Jared, who are first time at a crash scene and have seen something this tragic, to have the group discussion is what's beneficial to everybody, to know that this feelings that you have are natural, and it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to talk about it,
Right.
And when you take that ability away, it just circumvents the whole purpose for it, for having people open up.
Maybe legislation would be the solution, some kind of.
Yeah, I'm sure at some point, something will come down the line. We just have to organize and do it,
Yeah, because I know from serving on the risk pool board of directors, which is one of the hats I wear as an MMA executive committee member, is we've taken a lot of pride in that we're buying into a program called Serve Strong. It's supposed to be for first responders. And we're one of the first states, one of the first municipal leagues to purchase this thing. And it's supposed to be allowed 24 hours a day. It's going to be free to, they haven't rolled this out yet, but it's going to be free to fire all the first responders in any event that they can talk to somebody if they so choose, to try to get the help that they need. Because we've found that all the studies show that the quicker you can intervene with people after they've had a traumatic event, the better their outcome is on the other end. So we're leading the way with that. And when you tell me that, that's kind of disturbing that, that on the other side, we're doing the opposite. We're trying to take away these opportunities when we're trying to invest serious resources into providing this for people that need it. I mean, sorry.
That's quite all right. I appreciate that. On page 1 of this form here, just shows you what time and hour of the day we handle complaints. It was kind of alarming to me when I'm going down through the far right-hand column for the total that, between 2 in the morning and 5 in the morning, now that we have 24-hour coverage, those numbers are going right up to the roof.
No kidding. I mean, you think about how many people are out and about at that time of day.
Probably,
Yes, nothing good happens after what? What's the time they say? Nothing good happens after midnight, right? So,
It is.
so those are going up exponentially. The other thing I want to point out is under our, you'll see our traffic stops, have increased quite a bit as well. And in conjunction with that, our PI accidents have dropped. Now, I'm not saying that
PI accident?
personal injury accidents that have decreased, quite a bit. And I'm not saying that, number of stops we have is a direct correlation to that, because there are a lot of different things that could go into that. I can just say that by having the visibility of the officers out there, doing the traffic stops, I believe that it does have some sort of bearings on that, overall figure.
Chief, clarifying question, what is extra patrol radar category?
If the officers, hit the school zone, they start an extra patrol complaint. If there's a request for speed enforcement on the Ridge Road.
Okay.
It gets a number drawn for it.
All right, so when we see 2023 at, 25 incidents, and then in 2024, the number goes to 75 or 102, that's just a result of the additional.
And also understand that last year was fairly new in the Spillman system.
Yeah.
So things weren't getting entered accurately. They might have been entered under another column instead of this, and now that we're getting used to it.
Yeah.
They're entering them more consistently.
Yeah.
And I would. I would like to add that I got several compliments from the chief having officers, Officer Moore and Parkman were up there during the election yesterday, and I got several compliments about that they were sitting around the polling place during the day. It made people feel better. So I just want to compliment the chief on having them sit there for the day. They weren't there all day because they had other things to do, but they did make an effort to be near the polling place, but right out here. Yes, yeah.
Right. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief Justin.
What did I go with that? I got we got the confirmation letter. We're officially in the Community Resilience Partnership. I submitted the information based on your votes at the last meeting. So this is our official letter from them. So we're in that. Katie Cog is working diligently. She attended, the person who's working on our grant application for us with Winthrop is attended a NEMA event yesterday to try to, that talked about dam resilience and stuff. So she's trying to gather more information. Ted, maybe you want to speak to this. We attended the Winthrop Council meeting on Monday night. I think it went okay. Yeah, I think
A little bit of pushback.
there's a little bit, but I don't think from the majority would be my guess.
Probably not. So I think Winthrop, assuming nothing changes, I think Winthrop will continue to partner with us.
Yep, I think so. Kent turned out a big contingent of people. The Anabesica Lake Association was there. The Cobussy Watershed Group was there. We filled the room, I would say. All the seats were all about that dam project. So thank you, Kent, for having them show up. I asked him last week. I said, it's on the agenda again. I'm not sure what they're talking about, but if you can turn people out, and he did, he turned them all out.
Hey, just to follow up on that meeting, because one of the feedback issues we got was debris in the spillway of the dam.
Yes,
So if we could make sure that someone from Public Works goes down there, and at least makes an attempt
sure.
to get the
Yep.
debris out. I don't know if it's gonna be successful. I went down and looked at it. It's a lot of debris. It's jammed in there like 2 feet down.
Okay.
So
Yep.
I don't know if they're gonna get it out or not, but we'll see.
Sure. Yep, I'll make sure that I add that to the work list for the DPW director. Sarah has our new, like I mentioned in my sort of my weekly update to you folks. She started, she's all on board, but once we get through the budget, she's been working diligently on the foreclosures and the taxpayers that haven't paid in several years. She knows how that process works. She's working on it. We are I'm making a cognizant effort to keep that off your agenda until you get through the budget. So once we get to your second meeting in April, when you think that you're all set to just kind of coast through summer, I'm gonna put that on your agenda, but we're gonna work through that so you can at least work through the ones that we know that won't be a problem. So one of them is the one on Wilson Pond Road, obviously. There's a few of them that are around that we have all the documentation. We know that. The ones that we were working through before the US Supreme Court changed the rules. So we'll bring that back to you as soon as we get through the budget. Just not to put too much stuff on your plate at once. Trying to think.
Did anybody return an RFP as a realtor or?
No, I have to do that again. So the first one, well, no, I can't say none. We got one. I'd like you to have more than one person to pick from. So we'll be putting that back out. I will be putting that back out again very soon. But the ones that we'll put in front of you right off the bat, it's not going to be an issue because a couple of them, there are no heirs. So there's nobody for anybody to request that process. So the putting it through a realtor is a request by the homeowner.
Okay,
So the ones that don't have anybody to request that, we don't have any issue with that. So we'll move those forward, and the rest of them, we'll do another RFP in the spring to try to get more interest in in a broker for us to deal with those other ones. And then we'll get into a regular routine. Sarah's very familiar in her previous communities. They did these annually, so she's very familiar with this. So she's going to be a pleasure to work with in this regard.
Did we send a notice to Eco Maine so we can get out of their automatic enrollment?
So I have not. The reason that I have not is because I sent a request to our town council, the town attorney, about whether that would be okay at this point, because the language in it kind of, the way I read it kind of said, oh, well, you got to do it within a year or whatever. So I wasn't sure whether it was appropriate. So I sent it to them to say,
Okay.
Can we do that? And they said they can't represent us in that because they also represent Eco Maine.
Oh,
So I reached out to they referenced another law firm. And I got his opinion. He said that I could, but I just recently got that. So I haven't sent the letter yet, but yes, I will. His opinion was that, yes, that would be an appropriate way to deal with it. So I will send that out shortly.
cool, thank you. And Eco Maine had said something about the rulemaking for the state waste program requires us to have a recycling program in order to participate in the cost recovery for packaging.
The cardboard, the packaging. Yep,
Yeah.
Cardboard.
Yeah, so can we do a little bit of kicking that tire? Because I'd like to know more about exactly what the statute says is a requirement.
Yes, absolutely. So you were you were holidaying
I was
at the last meeting, whatever you want to call it. And there was a meeting that the waste disposal people had put on. I'm not sure if it has happened yet. I will double check that, but there are meetings that are going around the state. And I said that I was willing to attend one of those to try to figure that out. Because they're trying to educate municipal officials at this point, because we don't know what it actually means.
Right.
So yes, we're working on that.
And at some point with the new, once the new public works director gets his feet on the ground and such, we should probably have an in-depth conversation about what the possibilities are in his view at the transfer station.
Yep.
Whether we're being realistic about stuff.
Yes, I agree with you. And his previous job, one of his responsibility was to run the Hatch Hill landfill in Augusta. So he has a lot of information to tell us about transfer stations. So he will be great to have that conversation with. So yes, absolutely. I agree with you. He'd be great to bring in here to talk about it.
Also, any progress on our next audit?
Yes, so we're down to, as far as I knew last week, I had 3 punch list items. I think I sent all the information that they wanted for those 3 punch list items. And he said he would get back to me this week. I haven't heard from him this week, but I assume we're almost done. I hope we are, because what we found out was that a lot of emails were going to them and the attachments were being stripped off by their mail server. So what we have since set up is a Dropbox type situation where we've been putting things in there, and he was very apologetic that we had done all this work and that they never got it. So yes, I'm hopeful that it will, because it was very frustrating to Lori and I, because we've both done a ton of work and he kept asking for the same things over and over again. We couldn't quite figure out why that was the case.
As we, and maybe we can talk about this when we do the budget plan tonight. As we are moving forward, have we a plan for getting 2 years of audits done in 1 year so that we're up to speed?
I'm hopeful. I put the money in the budget that's in front of you.
Okay.
There is a lot of money in there to try to do that. I've also, there's money also available that we could go. We had a pre-auditor before, and I'm hopeful with the money that because I have to, the difficulty is when the audits back up, is that I have to pay the two of them in 1 year. So instead of having it be, budgeted, so like the next year's budget, the audit line is like twice what it should be, because I know that this one's not done. I think it'll be done before July, but if all goes well, we would have 2 done next year. So I have to budget that. So it has a budget impact, which I'm not happy about. So yes, that is the goal.
Presumably that year that we skipped had a positive budget. We had a surplus that went probably into the undesignated fund balance.
Yeah, in theory, right, exactly. Yes. But like I've kind of said before, like we only have as the town office staff, we only have so much control over that. The auditors, they designate, like they will say, I've set aside Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week to work on Monmouth. And we try to give them the information that they want, but if it's not satisfactory, we don't find out then for 2 months, because now they're in 5 other towns, and then we hear back from them 2 months later, and then they're like, we need you to amend this particular spreadsheet to make it acceptable. So that's kind of the problem, is that there's this huge lag time, because they all have more work than they have staff to deal with. So.
Well, my hope would be that as we move forward, that we figure out a way to get them to agree to do 2 years in one, and plan that
Yes,
ahead of time.
yes. It's uncomfortable for me. I mean, just so you know, I don't enjoy this situation either, because as the treasurer, I'm responsible for the funds that are in the account. And when I don't have an accurate accounting of that, I go home at night and worry that, is this what we actually have, or is there some different number that I don't know about, because I don't have an auditor telling me that there's 3 million in the checking account. I mean, I want that third party review. So I'm not intentionally trying to do this. I'm trying to do the best I can, but when you get 2 years behind, it's not easy to fit it into their work schedule, and it puts a lot of pressure on the staff too, when they do show up and they say, oh, this is the week that you have to do it, and we have other things to do. It makes it very hard to, you got to dedicate your entire day or week to just answering their questions. So but I appreciate what you're saying. I mean, I'm not comfortable about it either, so.
Yeah, I think the last meeting, the RSU two uses RKO. And they're 2 years behind. They're having, those, people who are not getting the right amount of pay.
Yeah, I remember reading something about that in the newspaper.
Well, that was the payroll company has been messed up.
Right, so they had
Yeah.
employee and compensation
Exactly.
issues, and then they
Yeah.
also had a dispute with the town of Richmond about exactly who
Yeah.
owed what
Yeah.
and whatever.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
And the problem was the
well, and that
And-
puts us in a, I mean, as you know, I think the buck stops on our table here. In terms of fiduciary responsibility, that puts us in a difficult situation. If what we think is the balance is actually not the balance.
the same with that.
Right.
And theirs is much more complicated, I think, than ours.
Well, it's 65% of what we tax people for, right?
Yes. Yes.
Last thing is about the election yesterday. One piece of feedback that I received secondhand was that some people were disappointed that we didn't have a better outreach on exactly what the TIF proposals, the changes to the introduction of the new TIF, and then also the changes to the language of the old TIF. You know, what was the detail of that all about? So I'm wondering, did we put any of those questions on the website ahead of time so that people could see them in advance? Because apparently there were.
Yep, so to put a TIF question on a municipal ballot, it has to be posted on a public, has to be posted in the local newspaper, so it was in the KJ.
Okay.
The questions were posted there. You folks had to hold a public hearing, so we had to post the public hearing for the select board to hear that.
Okay.
One of the disadvantages to the system of Monmouth is that we don't have an open town meeting. So with a typical town meeting, those questions would be posed and there'd be people that would have to stand up and explain what was going on.
I
So
think that's kind of.
so because we don't have that, the question is a statutorily designed legalese nonsense paragraph, which I agree with. If you were to just read that right off the street, you have no idea what that means. But that's what it has to say in order to pass the straight face test. So, I mean, we did what we can do, I think.
The
To be honest,
suggestion,
I'm open to suggestions, but we did go through, I mean, we paid $600 to have it put in the KJ, which is not, you know, it's expensive. But I do understand where people come from, where they
show up.
go in and they didn't even know that was on the ballot, because if you're not watching these meetings and you weren't, you know, and you're not reading the minutes or the agendas, which I think, you know, that's pretty difficult, right? A lot of people don't participate. So I do understand that. I did hear that feedback myself, and I'm at a loss of how we can do better, but I'm open to suggestions, certainly.
Well, as I told somebody who reached out to me, who said I needed a law degree to answer the two questions, and I said, well, you know, it was just basic stuff about changing a couple things in our TIF district, but we had to use the verbiage that was given to us by the state.
Well, even if you got a law.
Well, exactly. No, I didn't understand it when we were reading through it.
It's a
so-
massive run-on sentence. is what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, you know, it is what it is. And if the ballot is always on the website, you can go on there and see the sample ballots. They're listed on there. If people want to know what's on the sample ballot, it's right on the town website. So,
And most of that discussion, as you know, because you chair the Economic Development Committee, was really done at the Economic Development Committee level, and I mean,
a couple of suggestions, and, you know, maybe it's a shame on me moment, was, to, you know, write a letter to the editor at the community advertiser if he happens to be publishing that week.
and he's not.
He's not right now, but I mean,
but
That's a
the only
possibility.
thing that the only one comment that I made to somebody that suggested that there should be an article in the newspaper is if people that are supporting the initiative, or you folks who are educated about it, it's still very complicated.
Right.
Not to be, you know, disparaging of the newspaper, but I have very little faith that an article that would be put in the KJ written by somebody over there would make any sense of the TIF district, because I know I can probably list 6 or 7 people in the state that could intelligently speak about this stuff ad nauseum. And I would be very nervous based on what came out about the beach, in the newspaper,
Wrong.
which I didn't think was that complicated, right? You know, I mean, it's just, so I'm not sure whether we can fix this or not. Ken, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure, but I do appreciate what you're saying, and I
I
appreciate
promise to
the
bring it up.
feedback that people brought
And the-
forward.
This,
Yeah.
I now conclude my public service. announcement.
I could have done better with, I could have put it in my select board notes.
Yeah, but what are you gonna say? I mean, it was so convoluted and
just-
it
I
didn't
can
make any
warn-
sense.
Warn people, what you're gonna see is gonna be, look, very complicated and legalese, but you gotta vote for it.
And you know, my explanation was, it was just rearranging the TIF districts. Taking something out of one place and putting it into another. And that's all it was. That was my explanation to people. So, and that's essentially what it was. So, you know, it was moving eggs around in a basket, so.
Can't you just at the bottom say, and this won't cost you any more tax money?
That's right.
And everybody will be happy.
There was no financial
Yeah.
portion to it.
So you didn't know that. You could, by reading it, you didn't know it was no financial. You assumed that there was gonna be a financial cost to it.
Right, I could have said.
We were
that,
also-
you know, it's like,
We were also, to be perfectly fair to the Economic Development Committee and our economic developer and everybody that put it together, we were under the gun, like this thing had to be approved before April 1st of this year. So that's why it was put on the ballot in kind of an odd place, right? Like normally it would be better to put it on the town meeting warrant, but it couldn't be because of the timing. So it had to be moved forward. So I just wanted to say that just so that everybody knows that it wasn't necessarily that anybody was trying to shove anything under the radar. It's just that we're under these timelines, and the wording and all that is all determined by the state. And in order for it to work, it had to be done this way at this time. And so it's unfortunate, and I get why people are confused, but it is kind of is what it is.
And so I'm assuming we're gonna deal with the beach ordinance June.
Yes, it will be on the regular warrant with maybe the other ones that I put in front of you tonight, if we get to those.
Just to put something else though in perspective about the people complaining about how that was written. There was also complaints about the fact that that election was not advertised enough and they knew nothing about it until yesterday. So, you know, kind of like go figure.
You can lead a horse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, you know, you just can't make everybody happy. I'm like, you know, that person, those people had to be, you know, living under a rock. I don't know. 15 states are doing a primary and you haven't heard anything
It's
about
called
it,
Super
really?
Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's been out there, you know, what can I tell you?
Okay. Next,
Sorry, Doug.
select board reports.
I just wanted to remind everybody that Monday, the 11th, we're doing the walkthrough. Rain or shine, cold or not cold. I wish the weather was gonna be like this past Monday, but we'll be there 11 o'clock. The architects are coming. Our group will be there, the rebuilding committee. The public is welcome. I've sent invitations to everybody, but we've also posted it to the Restore MA Facebook page. And then, of course, once it gets put there, it gets reposted all over the place. So everybody's welcome to come look at the architects' plans, so you could see those and see inside the building. And like I said in the invite, building's not heated or lit. And there's no power and there's no heat, so dress accordingly, so. It's the only thing I have.
We had a meeting of the Economic Development Committee last night and talked a couple of things. We're in the process of doing strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat analysis, which is kind of fancy for just kind of doing some brainstorming about planning for the future of Monmouth and basing it on where we stand today. More, stay tuned on that. It's kind of a rough draft that we've got now, and I think we're gonna spend one more meeting on the whole on the whole process there, before we bring something to the board. One of the ideas that came up during that meeting, I thought maybe I'd give you a preview on, it is, on the issue of trails, and as you might recall, that one of the changes that we made to the TIF district in the revision language was to include trail systems as a potential recipient for TIF funding. And that basically is focusing on multi-purpose trails. So trails that are more likely to include all sorts of transportation, walking, horses, ATVs, snowmobiles, blah, 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 everything. So that we can include as many people as possible. It came up that we've got communities in Maine, as well as a lot of other sort of vacation destination places that allow public ways to be used by ATVs. And it turns out they're doing this in Greenville, they're doing this in Lisbon. Apparently Lisbon has asked for a special exception from the Commissioner of Transportation so that they can put ATVs on a state road. But it's actually, Justin's done a little bit of research for me to find out what it would take simply to put ATVs safely on a townway, so a town road rather than a state road. And we're probably not talking about putting anything on 202, but we are realistically talking about crossing 202 potentially and using some town roads off to the side with a lot of supervision and regulation and potentially an ordinance that would tell people what they need to do in order to run their equipment safely. You know, it's not a big secret that our snowmobile season this year was about 2 weeks. Don't blink. And 3 weeks. And this is the second year in a row where that it's been a pretty short season. And if things continue along that way, you may have to travel quite a distance to exercise your snowmobile. So that kind of got the Economic Development Committee thinking out of the box about looking at what the future might hold for outdoor activities and in the new Maine climate, and also thinking about some observations that Hugh and other folks have made along the way, where there's big challenges with subdivisions and new property owners and changes in property lines and such that mean a whole lot of work and investment goes into building trail systems that may not last for very long. And so what better way to think about a trail system that would be sort of the backbone of some smaller trails that come off of it by allowing ATVs on a public way. I don't know if it's going to be every public way, maybe it's some. I don't know if we start big and then shrink it back based on what people are actually using. That might be possible. I do, before we go there, I do want to say though that with the TIF language already approved, it would actually be very easy for the select board to authorize expenditures for things like signage on a public way that would help guide the users what they need to do in terms of operating their vehicles safely.
Yeah, so just to clarify, to run ATV down a public way does not require an ordinance. It doesn't require the acceptance of the community. It requires the acceptance of the municipal officers. So the select board can do this on their own. We just have to, you just have to designate those, and you have to it says in the rules that in the law that you have to, it has to be very clear. So my thought would be, and I would talk to the chief about
That's
this,
what I
but
was gonna
but in
say.
the other communities, it's basically like every telephone pole has to have a sign on it that basically says, this is, four-wheelers can go here, you know, you have to kind of designate them down the road. And the statute allows the local law enforcement jurisdiction, which would be chief, to either summons or not summons people that are violating those rules. So the statute automatically builds that in. We don't have to pass an ordinance about fines or anything like that. It just falls into the state law of where you can and cannot use a four-wheeler on a public way. So that's,
And I definitely think you need to be part of that.
Yes.
Larger
Yeah.
conversation
Right.
about that, because
but you folks get to decide that. It's not the town.
Okay.
Well, it's not the.
Can I interject? I don't think we realized that was gonna be a topic last night. We would maybe send a contingent from the Trailblazers. But it's great to hear that that's front and center in people's minds. Just to give a little background, our club has predicted some time ago, it's been of years, that we would at some point be at this table asking for those public right of ways across public easements, like down Main Street or Blue Road or wherever it might be. We actually are officially an ATV club, not just a snowmobile club. However, at this point, our involvement in being a state approved club is we just go to other towns and other trail and establish trips. Because once we established ourselves, a lot of people made rumblings that they would get involved with us and help us, and they didn't show up. So we had about 3 or 4 people that were really serious about making ATV trails in Monmouth, excuse me, and that just isn't enough people, of course. With the current membership for the 40+ miles of trails, that's all they felt they could handle currently. So again, our trail system is out of town. But I think what you're referring to is municipal trails can be designated by the Board of Selectmen, which you actually, if you're not aware, you actually have this board previously has designated 2 municipal trails that you've left to the Trailblazers to maintain, I guess if we so choose. One of them goes by the town office and goes to Quick Shop, which currently is not a maintained trail, and they're not a supporting business, so we don't also want to do that. We probably should have told you that. And the other municipal trail that you also authorized goes from Cottonwood Lake and stops at the museum property at the freight shed. Those are both municipal approved trails that the Warden Service and the Board of Selectmen have approved previously. They're not currently maintained. But that might go along with what you're referring to.
The statute that I'm referring to, Hugh, is specifically for ATVs.
Okay,
So it doesn't include snowmobiles.
okay.
So it does specifically, it has all this language like operated on the extreme right of a public way or as designated by the municipal officer. So it has, this is how, like, if you go to Greenville or Jackman or some of these places, and they're riding four-wheel, right? Yeah. So that's how they're doing it, is the municipal officials can designate, but they have to very clearly delineate those municipal roads with signage that's appropriate. So like I kind of hinted to, that there has to be like a sign on every telephone pole or every other one that says you can keep going down this road. And then when the sign disappears, you need to go wherever it is that you're supposed to.
It says end on it, actually access end.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Just a little more to hold you up, but we did actually make an effort to see if we could get a trail system started, and we have actually probably a little over a mile approved by landowners. It basically was at the north end of town. As we worked our way more towards the center of town, we ran into more resistance, however, we did get several yeses, not all no's. But it became very apparent that 3 or 4 people were nowhere near enough to really put in the energy and the time to orchestrate what would need to be a trail system. So for any group, whichever, it should include the Trailblazers in the future that entertain ATVs, we would need a big injection of people, resources, and I would think would need incentives, goes to what you talked about establishing the trail system, and not just leave it to landowners' permissions, but talking about land purchase and or easement, permanent answers that you forevermore have access to this land. Without that, it's gonna be a tough road.
Sure. Well, at least I think the public way solution could at least be a backbone
Hmm.
for what comes in the future and be a point of leverage for you to go to a property owner and say, hey, look, we can get them, to the curb in front of your property. What do you think about having access across your property? And I would suggest to the board that perhaps we could convene, and maybe we do this at another meeting, convene an ad hoc committee that includes some public safety people and some representatives from the ATV club, and others. I know the age-friendly folks are concerned about general purpose trails as well. So maybe there's somebody there that would be interested in participating, coming up with, if it's not an ordinance, fine, then it's not an ordinance, but at least a policy, something that's written down that we've got on the books that says, okay, here are the requirements. Here are the roads that we're talking about. Here's our implementation plan. Timeframe, signage. There's a lot of different moving parts that would be involved.
And to get back, Hugh, if I might, just to indulge you guys for a few minutes. So when I was the town administrator on Chesapeake Island, the big issue out there was to maintain public access to the beach. So people, from away would come in and they'd buy and they wouldn't let people on the beach. So the town had a reserve fund that they put money into every year. They put $20,000 a year into there so that they could keep buying easements, like you said, like right-of-way access to the beach. And you could see that if that was a priority of this community, you could do the same thing for snowmobiles and four-wheelers, where you put money aside every year and it sits in a fund. And then when an opportunity arises, when the snowmobile club or the ATV club or whatever arises, that you'd have a little bit of money so that you could pay those landowners. You could,
The value of the easement.
I want this permanent easement. And then the town holds that easement and then it becomes a public right. So instead of it being, can I ask you, they've now sold that to the town, to the community, to the people that live here. And then you can permanently cross that land for whatever you agreed to, whether it be ATVs, horses, walking, whatever they agree to. You get to determine that. And that's what we did, that on an annual basis down there. I mean, it was always a negotiation every year, but it is, to get to what you're saying, you can do that stuff. You just have to have the money to do it.
That goes to the point that I've been trying to raise the red flag, that as these checkerboards get more and more broken up, that's more and more landowners to deal with it. That's the bigger pieces right now, there aren't many left, are easier to talk to 1 or 2 people instead of 25 people. And as the years go by, it's a bigger mountain to climb to establish this trail system. So that's why I've been kind of waving that trail flag, because we see how difficult it is with our landowners increasing, 100, 105, 110, whatever it is now. It just keeps climbing, getting more and more. And it's the same.
Starts with $1,000. So it's just a matter of, having that thing where you just decide that you're gonna put that to the voters and say, like, do we want to set money aside for this type of thing? That's up to you folks when you do your budget. But yeah, but just to get to what you're saying. Yep.
Thank you for the discussion. Great.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Any more select board?
Let me hit on that.
I have just one thing before you guys move on. I just wanted to thank Paul Furland and the police department for their assistance in the gun show over at the Fish and Game Club back in February. We had a huge volume of traffic, and the officer spent quite a bit of time over there doing traffic control and helping us out with that. And it brought a lot of people to town, and I wanted to recognize Paul and the whole crew for the work that they did. We really appreciate that from the club.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
I know you're talking about these ATV trails and all this good stuff. Sounds good. I'm a sportsman myself, but I'm more concerned with my own road. I live on Peace Hill Road. I've been dealing with you about that. That road is horrible. The last 3 years has gone right to crap. I mean, big time. Right now, I've probably got trenches like that going down 60, 80 feet down the road
which is dangerous. There's also, my wife has a business out there. There's a guy up the road that has an auto, repair place up the road. There's another person, I think she sells flowers on that road. And that road is horrible. They did come out, and I do appreciate that, but what they're using is material that's like throwing mud on mud. It's not gravel, it's mud. And, you know, we're out there, there's at least 10 families out there on this road. We tried the best we can to help them out. I have a little tractor. I go help ditch out the road because they don't even ditch out the road for years. We had a tree come down across the road. The neighbors cut it out. You know, that was during that storm where everything came down. We all helped out. When they came out to pick up the stuff, they put all the brush in the ditch. Well, where's the water gonna go? Right to the road. I know they got a new road commissioner now. I hope he can do something. But right now, before I'm concerned about an ATV road, I'm concerned about my road getting in and out, damage to my vehicles. The clients that my wife has, the clients that the other people have up the road. So I can't even think about what you guys are even proposing. I mean, I had to try to come right from work to get up here just to put my 2 cents in. And, I need my road fixed and I need it back. One time they came down, they put some reclaim in there. Very good. Held for a long time. Now it's a mud trench. And my second thing, just because I'm running late on time. I mentioned about the phone system, calling to the centralized number and you get the different extensions. My wife tried 6 different numbers and I don't know as it was during that time you said that it was out. But it received the message, so that means the next day or something, somebody would have got the message. Not one person responded, and to me, it's rude and it's disrespectful not to respond to somebody that has a legit thing going on. So I feel for you guys in your club and stuff, but my road needs fixed. And I think that centralized number, you need to respond. People need to respond. She tried 6 different, she tried yours. She tried 2 of the police officers, because I know Dana Westling, he's come out before. And then 3 others, not, the town, the road commissioner or whatever called in. Not one person called back. And she said, can you please respond? It's a simple half a minute deal. Hey, lady, we're gonna get to it. Something.
Like the Cressy.
Something.
We had the same.
I know you exist. I know that we can help you. That's all we're fighting for out there.
I apologize on behalf of the town office. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't get a message. I did ask out front.
Well, that's why.
I'm not sure.
Email on you, but you know, today.
Right, like we emailed today, right, yeah, I did, I responded back to you.
appreciate that.
And I do apologize, I'm not sure really what the issue was. I know that last Thursday, like I said, we didn't have any internet. I don't know if that was when
No, I don't think.
I made that assumption when I emailed you.
It's okay.
I do apologize, though.
But they gotta do something.
We should always get back to you. I
It's
completely
exactly,
agree with that.
because I got back to you.
Right, absolutely.
Mom and dad taught you that.
There's no excuse. I mean, the smallest thing for
Right.
government is just to at least acknowledge that we heard what you said. I mean, you
Right.
can't always fix your problem, but we should always respond to you.
And we do
So
understand.
I am sorry for that.
I accept that. You know we got mud season, but we don't get like this. It's just got worse. This year is horrible.
Yeah.
That's
I
all
think
I
the
have
worst
for my,
thing this
my 2
year,
cents. I don't know what you guys can do about it, but I wanted to put it out there in front of y'all.
Well, you're actually coming to us at the right time.
yeah,
Because we're putting together a budget for public works and how they're gonna spend some money on road improvement
Right.
for the coming fiscal year. And that's actually on our agenda tonight and probably will be.
For the one time I did get a hold of, actually the girls gave me the fill-in guy that was doing the road commission, thing. And when I called and he said, we've already spent our budget, I'm like, how did you already spend your budget? How does that happen already? Then I heard about trail, sorry again. You know, I'm like, money, 1,000 there, 1,000 there. I even honestly, I told, please just bring it down, bring me some good stuff. I'll go out there with my little tractor and I'll help you do it. Cause I knew there was a lot going on in different areas. I do know that.
You really need to, the town needs to do something, that little narrow section, you get halfway down there, you just have to come up the hill.
Oh, yeah, it's ledge and
Is that what it is?
there's a spring there. That's
Cause you
not
put
the
banks-
worst part.
Put snowbanks and our fire trucks just.
Well,
it's
plus-
tight.
No one's gone through there in years, so it's a 1.5 car road. It's a dirt road. But now no one's gone to cut any of the trees back, so now it's getting smaller and smaller. That's
Around
for
the
that
corner.
area you're talking about.
Went down this morning to go to a fire call.
Yeah.
Crash and.
How was the road at the end?
I had to put it in 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, and that's the way I gotta go, so
Which end?
my wife, Peace Hill Road, you know Ruth Ann, I'm down on the
Yeah.
far end going towards the Woodbury, Bird Sanctuary. Yeah,
The Litchfield end.
which, there's another issue, Litchfield has the last 150 yards or so. Back when you had the first road commissioner back 15 years ago, who was that guy?
Herbie Whittier.
Herbie made a deal with the town of Litchfield that they took care of the whole section, because it doesn't make any sense.
We're supposed to be still taking care of that. Has that not been?
They come down to the end of the power line and they stop grading.
That's not the way that's supposed to work. We're supposed to, it's our responsibility as far as that's the way I understand it, to the town farm road or the
Yeah,
Whippoorwill Road, whichever is on that, it changes there.
right,
But yes, that the town is supposed to take care of that all the way there.
right.
As far as it's still supposed to be like that. And if it's not, I appreciate it.
It has been. They stop right at the edge of the power line, stop grading. So the rest of it, I've actually took my little tractor, because they don't always keep the crown,
Right. Yep.
which you need a crown and you need ditches.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with you.
I'm pretty good at this stuff. I do it myself.
Okay.
And they don't do it. So I usually go with my little tractor and do that. I don't charge nobody. I don't send you no bill for the time, but it costs me money. It costs me time.
Tell us your name.
Huh?
Tell us your name.
I'm Dan Mayberry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
And I gotta go, but I wanted to put my 2 cents out there, but.
Thank you, Dan, for coming.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. We have a couple of changes. I think we are supposed to take care of that to the end of the road. And if that hasn't been happening, that's not.
You do that?
We are, that is our agreement.
Well,
Because it's like 100 feet.
Exactly,
So like we've always taken care of it too.
And I think the big thing is with Tony coming on board, those things that have been left by the wayside, like we talked about with trees getting cut back and.
Right, and Tony's been here and we haven't had a snowstorm yet.
Yeah,
Like he's
exactly.
been like, oh, this hasn't been too bad. I haven't had to come out once. Right, but it's like, it hasn't always been that way, right? It's like he'll earn his faith someday.
Yeah.
So I'm making a note of that right now.
Thank you.
I don't know. I think I might know who he is, but I'm not quite sure.
What's his wife's business?
Oh, that, I don't know.
He does,
I'm trying to think.
Massage.
Oh, massage.
Yeah, it's like a massage thing, right? Yeah. I think that's something like that.
Massage.
I've talked to both of them. They're both, they're very reasonable. They're frustrated.
Yeah.
That's all. And he's coming here and good for, I do appreciate that.
I think Joe hit the nail on the head. This is like the Cressy Road situation again.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Right.
And I've driven that road. Pretty iffy.
I'm having 2 loads gravel delivered to Neil Lane tomorrow. Costing me $800, by the way. Private road.
Right.
Well, I mean, the big thing this year is the ground really never froze. You
Right,
know,
it's a
and
mess
it
this
was
year- this
super
year for us than
saturated
ever.
from all the rain
Exactly.
that we've had in the fall, in December, in February, and in March, you know, so.
Right. I don't know what Annabessacook looks like, but my parents live on Woodbury and they've never, their cove out front of their house has never not had ice on it this time of year and there's no ice.
There's no ways.
My kid's ice rink just disappeared last week
Yeah.
and, you know, he's all disappointed because he goes to his grandparents and ice skates and there's no ice anymore, you know, but I mean, that's weird.
Less
Yeah, it's weird. That's this time of year too. It's way early.
Your boards are down at the Woodbury Dam, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I digress.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
some people email me stuff and I don't know how to respond. A lot of it involves like the Moose Trail or Moose Tracks thing up there on
It'll be
your road.
posted on the planning board website when the meeting will be.
But they have a website and a Facebook site.
Yes, they do.
And so people are asking me, is it a done deal?
No. If they clicked on that website one more page.
Yes.
They'd find out that it
There's nothing
says it's
there.
under review. Please leave your address or name and phone number and we'll get back to you when, you know, they're not taking site.
No
Applications.
reservations. No, yes, I looked all through it. So if you go to the page about booking a site, it'll tell you that the campground's under construction and when the final
Right.
thing is approved, they'll let you know.
But there
So,
are, but it was on Monmouth Community website that the hearing was next Thursday.
yes,
Which it's not,
Which it's
because
not.
they didn't get their
Right.
application into the planning board, but it was on that website. Even though it wasn't on the planning board page, they assumed that we were hiding it and that it was gonna be snuck in on Thursday. And it is not on the web, it's not, there is no hearing for that campground on Thursday.
They haven't submitted any of their
It would have
required.
to have been submitted by Friday. They were, or Thursday.
Yeah.
And
It
it
did.
was not.
It was not. So there's nothing happened.
okay.
They built the website, but that's it.
We tend to be kept in the dark about what goes on with the planning board.
Well, this talk, we're talking with Justin and trying to figure out a mass of communication that has fallen to the wayside. And we all know why. But we need to build that back up again, so the communication is there. I was at every meeting, the whole time I was at, you know, on payroll.
Yes.
I came to this meeting and to planning board meeting. So
Right.
you guys could ask any questions and I could tell you.
Yes.
Well, that communication has stopped, so we need to reestablish that somehow. And Justin and I, we talked about it today. We're gonna work on that, trying to get that avenue of communication back.
And we
open.
do, and not to cut you off, but we do have to be careful. Because you may have been very involved in it before, but the planning board is a quasi judicial body. They are completely separate from you. It's problematic to have issues that are before the planning board brought before you for you to discuss in open meeting when they haven't made a decision yet, because you have no authority in that regard. There's a reason that you're separate people. So it's okay. It'd be better if you were more well-informed of what is going before the planning board, but we do also have to be at the same time cognizant that that is not your responsibility and you have no role in that. They have their, right, exactly. So we just have to be careful about it, that's all. Like,
Just to know what's going on.
right,
I mean, that's,
no question about that, Doug. I'm just saying, but we do have to be careful about how much detail that is aired out here before they have their chance
It's
to
still a
talk
small
about it.
town and you guys would still getting phone calls and we understand that. Because it happened 20 years ago.
Right,
That
yeah.
planning board would get a phone call and they go, well, I don't know anything about it.
Right.
So I would
Right.
try to give you a heads up of what's coming and that's it. No more information, just
But
enough.
we don't get that now.
You don't get that.
I mean, Matt hasn't, back in a ways, a while ago, he was sending us like quarterly or monthly report, but
Andy.
like you did.
Every 2 weeks you had a report from him.
Well, I can get on him about the monthly reports. He was doing it. And now that you mention it,
I mean,
I don't notice all the time that he doesn't do it because.
Yeah.
But you're right. He was doing it for a while and I think that we've been a month or two probably. We
Yeah.
haven't seen one. So that's on me. I will get on him.
I know it's busy and probably.
No, it's just, he just needs to do it. That's
It's
all.
also trouble with Matt getting the information, so don't blame him all the time. Sometimes he's not, it should start here with him and sometimes it circumvents him. So we have to work on that whole.
We had a good discussion
We had a
today,
good
me and you and I talked to Darcy before I got here. That's why I was showing up at the last minute throwing paper all over your place because, right? Because we were sitting there talking and I was like, oh, I gotta get up. I gotta get up. But anyway, yes.
It's actually Andy.
It's Andy.
Code
It's actually
enforcement.
Andy.
Oh.
They're trying to confuse me.
Exactly.
I took a note.
Like-
He does need to do that. He
Yeah.
needs to at least send you a
Matt was
monthly
3
report.
ago.
Yeah, I know.
That was 3
It's
ago.
too confusing.
So who's there
It's
now?
Andy. Andy is the
It was
guy.
Matt and Richard, now it's Andy.
Yes.
And before that, it was, what was the guy before?
Oh, that guy.
Matt,
Was it you?
Yeah,
No, the town manager.
Clinton.
Clinton.
Yeah,
Went from Dresden to Clinton.
Yeah.
Daniel Swain.
yes, there you go.
Yes.
Daniel, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
At a couple of meetings, we've had, an emergency alert system has been mentioned.
Yes.
Of some sort, so people could be aware of, well, something needs to get out to everybody. Some towns, I guess, have that, right? I think we talked about it.
Yes, we did. And I just signed a contract today and hopefully you will add it to the budget. If not, we will eat it somewhere, but it's, we will have a text alert system in the next 60 days. So the next time that we close the town office or whatever, if the chief will have an access to it, we will have it. There'll be a little, if you know what a widget is, there'll be a widget on our website that'll kind of float around. And if you want to sign up for it, it has different amounts of, so the person that wants to receive the text messages has to sign up for those, and there'll be a category of things that they care about. So if they don't want to get a text every time there's an election or whatever it might be, they can click off the things that they care about. So if all they care about is that the town office is closed, they will be able to click that. If they want to know about public safety things, both the chiefs, we will give them login information and they will be able to say that streets are closed or whatever. And the system also allows for geographic notices. So say such and such a street is closed. The system has the ability to say that we will only notify the people that signed up that are in that area. So if you live in North Monmouth and something happens down near the Sabattis town line, you don't care, you won't get a text about it.
Yeah.
So I just did that today. I've been negotiating. I knocked $3,000 off the price they said it was gonna cost to implement it. And they said it was okay, and I just moved forward today. I just signed that deal.
Make sure that the transfer station, you can know. if
That
the
will be another,
transfer
right, that will be
station is
another thing.
closed.
Right, that's closed or whatever, but, so we're trying. I heard what you said when you came in and we made something happen.
It's just come up at meetings.
Yeah.
No. Is there an AED in this building?
In this one?
No.
No,
It's a first aid kit though.
But I.
there
think-
is.
I think that's
She opened it.
something to
I
look
looked tonight.
Next
She opened it.
door,
I
that's
saw her.
An important thing to add if there's a gym next door, and if this is, a rec building or whatever, I think.
Public assembly, it should have.
Exactly, yes.
Okay,
And because I feeling.
Don't say that. I just went and got research.
Not yet, Doug. We haven't even got into the hard part of the meeting yet.
I keep a pocket mask in my car, so.
Can you help me with that?
Yeah.
Can you find me a vendor or something?
And then you'll just have to check the pads for when they expire, so that's the only thing to pay attention.
I'm just not familiar with.
And then
I'm
the
just-
battery, so.
It does make sense.
Somebody does it at the town hall, it's because they're checking pads in Compton and the town hall. So,
Right, we do have one in the town office.
yeah, so whoever that vendor is, can just.
You're right, it might be
This
best just to do the same person.
Yeah,
It's, the
Probably a
name's
label on
right
it.
on it. Cause they come every 18 months. or
yeah,
something to change
check the pads and the battery, yeah.
Why don't they come to the fire department?
Lori.
You have one down there?
Well, the vehicles.
On the vehicles,
Right.
yeah.
But you don't have one mounted on the building? Just in the
No,
vehicles?
it's just the view.
Okay, well, that's interesting. We should have this conversation.
Yeah,
We should have one vendor if we're gonna do it.
yeah.
All the
If we
cruisers
can.
have them, right? All the cruisers have AEDs.
Who does yours?
I honestly don't know
And I
who the vendor.
I don't think we've ever had anybody come and check the pads on it or anything.
I don't
Well, the
think-
pads
I think-
expire in the batteries, you have to check, because they're just like any rechargeable device.
Oh, that's a good topic for our next department head meeting.
Yeah, get on the same page with the
Yeah,
LEDs.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've been taking care of our own. We do
And
our own
Buddy,
battery.
Buddy did the
replacement.
one in the town office, he's the one that changed the pads or ordered pads and.
My point is if there's somebody doing other municipal
Yeah.
business, we probably should.
all be on the same page, so.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Yeah.
It's kind of like portable extinguishers.
Yes,
They usually do all the town things all at the same time.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. Cool. Next week, I think we meet anyway. That's-
Yeah.
did you have anything else?
No, I'll be done.
Okay.
It's public comment time, and I think I know why these people are here.
They're here to support me. I tell them every meeting how they should come to select board meetings, to board meetings.
I thought they were here to heckle you.
Yeah.
To make sure you're doing the right thing. But
We need a new chief. Oh, no hands going up, Dan.
And I think, I consider the people who volunteer for stuff in town, the most important people in town. I mean, we couldn't run without volunteers doing all the stuff that most of us do. And the fire department, of course, it's for everybody's safety. And I know you get a little bit of money, but that's not the way. You do an awful lot of work for that little bit of money. And you have a great responsibility for that little bit of money. And we know that you need a better facility for a station that will, provide more things that you need to keep you safe. And so, I know that we are considering what to do with that building right next door, which unfortunately is going to we're going to have to go to the voters again and ask for more money. And we have so many other needs. Important stuff. So I understand, and I appreciate and understand why you feel that we need to focus on something, public safety things like.
Well, I'll speak up that I guess I was under the impression that there was gonna be some discussion this evening about the project next door and some explanation about the ongoing project, and the funds that might be seeked for to help continue that process. And was I did I misunderstand that that's not happening tonight or?
No.
It's not on the
It's-
agenda?
No, it is.
Oh, it is
It's on the
Yeah, yeah.
capital.
So you're kind
budget
of jumping the
plan.
gun a little bit.
Thanks, guys.
Because we're all interested in hearing it, you know, so we can be educated and
Right.
be able, because we do hear, you know, from other people throughout the town, you know, it's not just the firefighters, and other taxpayers.
Oh, yes.
So we thought this would be a good opportunity for a few of us to come out and listen, and if need be, we can speak up, you know, on our concerns.
It is on the agenda. So.
Okay. All right.
Public comment.
Nothing on Zoom.
Then on to consider the appointment of David Mulcahy as an alternative. As an alternative. As an alternate.
Alternative to the.
On the conservation.
The rest of the committee can go away.
I make a motion, we appoint Dave Mulcahy as an alternate to the Conservation Committee.
Second.
There's a motion by Chris, second by Ken to approve David Mulcahy as an alternate on the conservation. Committee. All over the table. Thank you.
Yes,
Mr. Burgess.
Mark says yes.
Oh, Mark,
Mark says
thank you.
yes.
To consider a catering permit for the Liberal Cup for the use of Constant Hall.
I make a motion that we approve a catering permit for the Liberal Cup for use.
And it's the comedy event, I believe, this weekend, correct?
Yes,
It's the
March
two
15th, yep,
dudes from
5 to
Maine or
9
something
p.m.
like that. Next
Yep.
week.
Second.
The weekend after this one.
So Ken has made a motion, Joe has seconded it to allow, to assign a catering permit for the Liberal Cup at Constant Hall. All those in favor?
And you will have another one for the,
Mark says yes.
and you'll have another one for the following weekend. It just said didn't get here in time for you to the weekend after the next one. So your next meeting, you'll have another one, but it just didn't make it in time to make it on your agenda.
Hey, what would it take to appoint you as the person who can approve these things?
I can't. Under state law, you.
He's
We-
smiling at
we have
us.
to do that.
Yeah.
To discuss draft amendments to the street and road ordinance.
Okay, so this was something that was brought up about the pumping of water onto Maple Street from sub pumps and creating ice, flooding the sidewalks and such things as that. This ordinance was drafted. Our town attorney drafted this for us, and he asked, and I have also put in front of you at the same time, whether you want to have individuals responsible for shoveling off sidewalks in front of their own house. So those are the two issues. One of them, it just allows the code enforcement officer, it gives him authority to say that you can't pump water onto the public way. The street and road ordinance is different than other municipal ordinances whereby you get to do that without, you don't, whatever you decide in this thing, you can approve it. You do not need to send it to the voters. So whether you want to put this, whether you want to do this or not is completely up to you. I
We
will,
could send it to the voters, but we don't have to.
correct. It's not necessary to go to the voters.
So my only comment is, we spent, what, $60,000 on a sidewalk cleaner? So,
Yep.
and a lot of the folks that live on Main Street and, you know, I mean, as a walker, I would love to have them spotless, so I don't have to walk in the street where I'm not gonna fall on ice. But, you know, if they use that sidewalk cleaner, it still isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, even when they put salt down with it. But I can't imagine that we tell people they have to go out there and shovel the remainder, you know.
there's no, just to be clear, there's no town staff motive in this. It's
Yeah,
just-
no.
It's a very,
Broad, generalized.
most
Ordinance.
large communities that have sidewalks require the owners of those parcels to shovel off the sidewalk. So while I was having a lawyer draft this, I said, drop that in there too and let them decide. So there's nothing coming from Public Works or
Oh, no.
myself that's saying that I'm asking you to do this. I just figured while we're having them draft, make the adjustments that you could consider that, because it does remove a municipal cost that is borne by every taxpayer in town that only benefits the people that have sidewalks. So that's the only reason why I'm throwing it. And if you don't want to do, you're not gonna get any argument from me either way. I don't.
On, people maybe are elderly.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, absolutely.
Busy, I mean, going to and from work and taking care of kids and everything, you gotta worry about that and going out and shoveling your sidewalk. And you know, where I grew up, we had to do that, but, we were kids to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
So I don't know, some people have real long stretches.
stretches of.
You know, I mean, you go out and take your snow blower.
Sorry, we can solve this. Just have a person walk with a shovel.
I know, I could do that.
Can we put that into the ordinance?
I'm gonna get one of those pink snow scoops and push it like I did the dog in the stroller. I'll push the pink snow scoop instead, but.
Just in
Yeah.
front of you, if you're not comfortable with that part, we can just cross out 5.2 and it will just be. The 5.1 is really what drove this to be dropped in front of you. It had to do with people discharging their sump pumps into the street. This will clarify that and gives the code enforcement officer the ability to provide fines to those who don't want to voluntarily comply with doing something else with it.
You good with that?
I will speak up and say that I really agree with Chris on this. We just took a lot of taxpayer money and bought this equipment to do this job. And for us to go back and tell them, yeah, we just spent $60,000 of your dollars to buy this piece of equipment, but now we want you to do it yourselves is quite a slap in the face to the taxpayers, in my opinion. So I would be in favor of removing.
I'm in agreement with that. We just leave it about, I mean, I'm a firm believer we should be solving the problems that we have, not the ones that we think we might have at some point in the future. So the problem we got right now is that the sidewalks get icy because people are discharging water across the sidewalk and creating a hazard for walkers. And if we get complaints that the sidewalks aren't clean enough and that we need to do something else, then we can do something else at that time.
Yeah, so I would strike 5.2.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Just need otherwise, are you okay with it? Because I'll bring this back later because you guys can do this without town meeting. But I will bring this back with that removed. If there's any other language you'd like changed before I bring it back to you to approve it. Otherwise, I think the rest of it's pretty
Yeah.
straightforward. It's just that you can't just discharge water from your basement into the public street to go into the sewer basins, basically, catch basins. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the word.
I think it's also important for us to say, for the public record, what the cost of the Maple Street sidewalk project was. How much money of taxpayers did we spend on that project?
It's a
Six
little,
figures.
yes, between that, it was Maple Beach and Academy were all one big thing, but yeah, it was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money, and I know this is a bit of a change for some folks who have grown accustomed to the way things were. And I would also say that I strongly suspect that the reason the condition of the sidewalk was the way that it was because people were putting ice on top of it all winter long. So you know,
It was mostly age. I mean, that sidewalk had not been touched since I was a very small child. So, and it was that way as long as I remember, so
but
at
I,
least 50 years old.
I look at this, not as a punishment or as a, you know, we're not trying to single people out. What we're trying to do is protect the safety of people when they're walking on that sidewalk. And also the fact that we just made a six-figure investment in that sidewalk and we want it to last as long as possible.
Motion?
Yes, please. Yes.
So I make a motion, we amend or draft or amend the sidewalk street, sorry, but I don't know, I hate to say.
You're catching.
I'm catching your.
Approve it as amended.
Yeah, approve the amendments or the street and road ordinance as amended, but there we go. Yes.
Second.
So there's a motion by Chris, a second by Ken to amend the street and road ordinance as suggested. All those in favor? Thank you. Next is.
Wait,
Mark?
Mark, what'd you say?
Mark.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
You froze on us.
He didn't move.
Yes.
He said yes, but he hasn't moved at all.
Let's didn't move, Mark.
He's a ventriloquist.
My,
Too much
the
sunshine
internet
down
is,
there. That's the problem. The internet doesn't work. It's too warm and sunny.
Next is to discuss a draft solid waste storage ordinance.
So this was an ordinance that was brought up, this was brought to, this is not being proposed, but it was brought up because you guys can pass this around as pictures. This is an example of a property in which there is trash or just like normal household trash that's being left outside, unattended, uncontained. And the CEO has received, there's 2 or 3 properties in town that have this type of thing going on. And he, under the current ordinances, there's no ability for him to do anything unless it becomes an actual health hazard. So we rely on the state health code or the health officer to say that it's creating a health hazard to do something about it. So this ordinance has nothing to do about mowing your lawn or having a clean lawn or a clean front yard or any of that. It just says that if you have trash, it needs to be in a container with a solid lid and that, or a dumpster or whatever, but it has to be in something that is enclosed where the animals can't open bags and strew it all over your property and then have you not do anything about it. So this is just in front of you. This would take town vote to approve. So this is just in front of you to try to answer a problem that we currently don't really have a solution to. And it's totally up to you whether you feel that this is an issue that you want to put before the voters or not. So
one question on this, if people are using a dumpster, but the dumpsters are overloaded and the lids aren't closed and stuff is torn apart and blowing out of the dumpster, is that still covered by this? Because they're using a dumpster, but it's overloaded and it's now buried in the sidewalk, in the snow piles and.
yep, so the way that it's worded is it says shall provide suitable and sufficient watertight covered containers, including dumpsters to receive the accumulation of solid waste and recyclables on the premise. So if you had one of those, for example, like a construction dumpster that usually doesn't have a top.
Yeah.
If you started throwing household refuse in there and then the crows or whatever, raccoons, whatever, might start strewing it all over, that you would be in violation of this ordinance. So it would be.
What about businesses?
This only addresses residential. So we could we could make it about businesses. We just haven't had any instances of businesses being the ones that are being complained about. But if that is something that you want to address, we certainly,
I know some businesses that have overflowing.
okay.
Well, we could just, you could just strike every residential building, just say every building.
You're correct.
Strike residential. I'm also gonna suggest that we strike after premises, this is in section 3.1,
Okay.
during the intervals between collections, because I think what they're talking about municipalities that come around and collect refuse.
It's also trying to address like a dump, like if you had a dumpster company and, you know, like Riverside or whatever,
Yes.
and you, like some people have dumpsters at their homes.
Yeah.
It's just trying to say that like in, you know,
But what if you have a covered container and you take your covered container to the town recycling center? It's not between collections because you are the one that brings it. So I think we should strike during the interval between collections from that section.
That could muddy things up. Having that verbiage in it.
Because we don't collect.
Yeah.
We don't do any collections.
Well, some people collect.
Well, some people pay to have it.
Pay to have it collected or use Riverside, which is the issue I'm running into. Cause
I mean,
I see this in my yard,
right. No,
not mine.
Understood.
but-
So
that's my motion is to strike residential and to strike during the interval between collections.
because it's an ordinance, I just need to make, I'm not trying to discount you. I'm just trying to say, I need at least three of you to say that.
Oh,
that
yeah,
you agree.
I agree with that.
Okay,
I
okay, I
agree
just,
with
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that that's, so we're gonna do, so premises will be a period and then during the interval between collections will be struck.
Premises period.
Period, okay.
And then in 3.2, we'd strike residential again.
Right, we'll get rid of all the residentials. Oh, did it mention anywhere else?
Further up, in, with solid waste, it mentions any residential waste.
So we'll just do any waste.
And so this would be a proposed ordinance on our next ballot?
Yes, it would be, we will do the public hearing with your budget. It'll be your next meeting. And it would be part of that, and then it would go to the voters. Yes, this one has to go to the voters, the other one does not. The road ordinance is your purview as select board members.
We've done something, before we tried this, and, we wanted, Mr. Shaw to be the grass police. He remembers that.
What did I say? No.
You said you were so willing.
This also, just so you know, this would also apply to the property in North Monmouth that had all the bottles and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to be
Yeah.
vague on purpose, but
Yeah.
just so you know, it would also apply to that, like there'd be authority to say that those can't be left outside.
That's really not resident. But the business.
But now.
Correct.
Now,
Will
Right
be
now,
included in that.
right, with your removal of that, yep. I just want to make that understood. I just want to make sure you all.
Perfect.
What is the title of this ordinance?
It's called the solid waste storage ordinance, but you can, that's what I named it. You can name it whatever you would like. It's your ordinance. I just tried to come up with something that made sense.
we need a motion.
Yes, please. Well, you don't have to tonight if you don't want to, but you can, you could vote that you want to include it on the warrant. Or you can just wait until we do. Till you approve the warrant in April. It's good. It's completely up to you. So however you want to do it.
I make a motion, we draft the solid waste storage ordinance with the changes recommended to be included in the warrant in June 2024.
Second.
So Chris has made a motion, Ken has seconded it to do what she said. All those in favor? Pardon?
Yes.
Okay. He's still frozen. But his voice works.
Next is to review the fiscal year 2025 Public Works Transfer Station budget and the capital.
I think I put that all in. It's one of the many pieces of paper I put in front of you tonight. Oh, Tony's only not here because of the fact that when we hired him, he had already booked a golfing trip to Florida. So that's where he left today or yesterday. He left yesterday to go to Florida, so he's probably was on the golf course today and not here. So good for him. It's the season. Yes, it is. I'm happy to go through this in any way that you want. Some of the drivers are, his salary is higher than the previous Public Works Director, and that was after we advertised it a couple of times. We needed to raise the salary to get it competitive with other communities that have experienced directors. There's an increase in the other contracted service. I'm sorry, did you want to ask me or do you want me to run through?
Go
Is that
ahead.
okay? Okay.
You go ahead.
So there's an increase in the other contracted services line, which is mostly for engineering and stuff. We're increasing that based on our experience dealing with Cocknowagon Dam and the expected expense for the Beaver Brook work with our engineering firm that deals with that with us. We increased, so last year you can see the vehicle repairs and maintenance was $168,000. We only had $70,000 in the budget. I've increased that to $85,000 to try to accommodate some of the old equipment we have over there, like we experienced earlier this year with the loader. You know, some of this stuff is just there's just more maintenance that's required than you typically hope for. I think, you know, what else changed? The safety equipment, you go towards the bottom. We have 5 employees. The contract requires $600 per employee for their safety equipment. So those are steel toe boots. If anybody's tried to buy any of those recently, they're $250, $300 for a pair of boots. And then the gas and oil is the one I wanted to touch on quite a bit. So you can see the FY24 budget was $25,000. The budgeting didn't account for on the expense side for the police department to use the gas pumps. So we put expenses in the police budget, but we didn't put it where the expense comes out. So some of this stuff has gotten moved around. And in addition to, if you look, $22,000 of this expense in this line is for the RSU2, because when we agreed to allow the buses to use our gas pumps, they're using $22,000 a year worth of fuel. So we have to put that in the expense side. On the revenue side of the budget, I've added that from the RSU to come back through. So it washes out. The same with the police department. There's an expense on the PD side where he reimburses the DPW, but it all needs to be in the expense account of Public Works, because that's where the expense comes out. That's where the bills come out. So it's really a wash, but I just wanted you to see that it has to be expensed properly in the expense side. So that's why the fuel budget has gone from 25,000 to 73,000. So there's revenue on the other side of the budget to account for that. It's not hitting the taxpayers the way that it looks in the budget. That's Public Works. Those are the big ones. You know about the the 5%, the union contract for the salaries, and then the $5 increase for the mechanic position that you've already approved. So those are the big drivers in the public works side. Any questions on that?
I just have a question since.
Sure.
And I know this is all union stuff, but since there's a gym up here now, can they use this gym and not have?
We could certainly put that into the next, we could certainly discuss that there. So their contract runs through July of 20, I think it runs through this July of 25, I think. So we will, right? Is that what it is? Yeah. So we will be starting December, January of this year and next year, January, to do the new union contract. So that's something that we could certainly, yep, we could certainly talk about. So I'm gonna move to transfer station unless there's. So we, there's something that's not correct in here that I want you to know about. So you can see there's I've added back the full-time transfer station manager on Tony's recommendation. He'd like somebody down there that's responsible for things. So I've added that back in. The 79,000 is too much. That's what we're currently under the part-time wages. So I added it up top and didn't take it down from the bottom.
Oh, so.
I'm not sure what that number is, but it will be less than that.
You lost me on that one.
I apologize.
Tell me more.
So, okay, so if you look at full-time wages, I had originally proposed no full-time wages for the transfer station.
Oh, okay.
And after talking to Tony, I added the 44,000 back in there, which is what we think would be a reasonable amount for a transfer station manager.
Okay, but you hadn't taken it out of the 79,000.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna be dollar for dollar. Because it just doesn't, because the part-time people, the full-time person will make a little more per hour. So, but I just want you to know that 79,000 is not correct. So I want you to know that will come down by probably 30,000 or something along those lines. I just can't, I'm sorry that I gave you that wrong number. Other than that, the big increase is the materials transport. It keeps going up. So as Kent mentioned, when we're talking about the going Eco Main, Portland is 52 trips a year at $456. That's to go to Eco Main. And then Auburn is 130 trips a year at $310. So those are the new rates for the next year. So that's why that's increased 11%. That's what our hauler is just requesting. They're not really requesting, they're saying that's what it is. So we can either find somebody else or that they're gonna continue to do it. I think that's pretty much it in the transfer station budget. That's what's driving it. So if we go to, do you have any questions about transfers? I'll move on to the other public works, but anything in the transfer station.
Where does the Eco Main expense hit this budget?
So it's all in the here.
Tipping fees? Part of the
Yes,
tipping
it's
fee?
all in the tipping fees. And then on the revenue side, there's a revenue line for that. Did I give you the revenue side? I don't think I did. I'm sorry, I didn't give you the revenue, but there's
It's a rebate that we get from.
Right.
Yeah, it's not exactly 92,000. It's 92,000 less whatever rebate we get from when they.
Right.
So.
So a couple of years ago, last year's was a good one. We got like 20,000, but in the past 5 years, it's been like 8, 9, 10,000 a year. So, you know, to your point, hauling it down there is 23,000 and we've never even gotten that. And we still paid a tip it there too.
Right.
Right, so
So
we're,
we're paying an extra, but we would still need to haul it if we were to. Send it all to Auburn, we'd still need to haul it to Auburn.
Right.
So we would. we'd
Probably
just be
save
saving the
10,000.
difference.
Yeah. But something like that, right? Because it's $450 to go to Portland and it's 310 to go to Auburn. So every trip, so 52 trips,
And of the
you can save
tipping,
$100.
and so I think I read in their letter that the net cost per ton is like $90-ish, $80 to $90 after the rebate.
I think based on their current
And MWAC is 40.
$44 a ton.
So we're talking about a 50% discount on tipping fees for the portion that goes to EcoMaine.
Yep.
As well as saving $10,000 on transportation.
Right. And if your interest is the carbon footprint or whatever, right? Like you're not driving a truck all the way from here to Portland. So if that's something that's,
Well, and then you add in wear and tear on a $250,000 piece of equipment, which is the compactor, right? We've got 5 compactors, 4, 5? I think it's 5, if I counted it right at the transfer
I think
station.
you're right. I think it's 5. Yeah, it's 4 or 5.
So at some point, we're gonna need to replace a
A
compactor.
couple of them need to be replaced sooner rather than later, but.
Right, so we're talking $250,000 a whack.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
It's a lot of money. for
So
trailer
how much carbon
trash.
goes into one of those? Right, so, I mean, I'm curious to know. We'll set aside the conversation, for when, the new public works director is here and we can ask him to do a little more fine tuning of our analysis, but I think there are big opportunities there. We can plan for the worst in this and then make a decision when the contract is up for.
Sure. Is that just on the transfer station before I move to the other public works, obviously the parking lot rent, $100. That's from the train.
Railroad, yeah.
Yeah, the railroad
Railroad.
people.
Yeah.
The other one is the milfoil inspection. So what's happened is it says Friends of Carbocy Watershed, but what's happened this year is all the Lakes Alliances have joined together. They've made one ask. So some of that is the Annabessacook Lake Association. So that's why it's gone from 15,000 to 18,000. Some of it is just the inflation of them hiring their boat inspectors, but they've also asked as one group this year instead of, so you only have one ask. So that's gone up. It looks like a lot on the budget, but it's $3,000. And then the Woodbury Pond thing is just that's the amount that my understanding, we've historically agreed to help Litchfield pay. We paid them $500 a year to help them manage the dam over on Woodbury Pond. Tony spent a lot of time looking at this stuff. He didn't make a lot of changes to it because he's just not comfortable to do so yet. But he dug you all know, he dug the wood chipper out from behind the salt shed. Very impressed with it. And he's had Sean fix it. And he's told the crew that that's what they're gonna be doing this spring. So they all know they're gonna be going up and down the sides of the road and getting rid of all of the, he's driven all over town and he knows which roads. I gave him the list of the roads that were on the list to be paved next, and he's gone out and measured and evaluated them on his own. He's gonna, come back, if the paving budget gets approved the way that it is, or if you want to add more or whatever. He's got plans for road painting, all of that stuff. He wants to get it more on the front end because he said that, the way that we've, at least in the years that I've been here, that we bid it out kind of later in the year. He says, you're not getting a good value for your money. You need to do it. You need to bid stuff out in the fall because the companies in the spring are all booked up, so they charge you more. So he knows all this stuff, which will be nice. So I think we're gonna benefit from that. So this next year might be a little bit of a transition because he's starting kind of too late, but he's ready to hit the road. And I look forward to working with him to do some of this stuff. So the budget, he didn't adjust that much. That's just because he's not completely sure. We have a huge sand pile up there.
Yeah.
So he's not concerned about the sand salt line being where it is, even though we overspent it last year. It's because last year we bought a lot of it and it's piled up there and we had no winter, right, to speak of for public works purposes. So there's a ton of sand up there. So he's comfortable with what's in those lines. We've had conversations. He's okay with what's in there right now, I think, for the amount that he knows about. So I think you're okay with what's in there. Based on my conversations with him. So the next thing would be, we'll move on to capital. The first thing I'll start with is the easy stuff. Next, there should be a form in there that kind of looks like this. It's gonna be bigger than mine. It's gonna be one of those, but it says additions to reserves. You don't have one, there's one over here. It shouldn't be that big. It should only be like 6 lines.
Yeah. Is there an extra copy? Dan's looking for a copy.
It might be over here, Dan. It might be one of these. Go on to Public Works.
I don't think I had one somehow.
There you go, like that right there. There's one.
That.
You else have one?
Yeah.
So I'll just go down the list here. So these are either reserves that have already been approved in the last 2 years that I've been here, or I'm going to ask you to create them on the warrant, which would be when you have your warrant meeting. So I can tell you which ones exist and which ones don't. So the revaluation reserve already exists. You appropriated money out of the undesignated fund balance to pay for the reval. This is the amount that is the remainder of the amount, so we need to raise another $25,000 to go into that revaluation reserve account. So if the voters approve that, we'll have all of the money to do the reval. Capital improvement program, that was a reserve account that you always had. There's nothing to go in there because it's generic, and as we keep going down, you'll see I'm creating. My proposal is to create reserves for specific purposes and not just have a capital account. So the road maintenance reserve is what was created at the last town meeting. That's the money that gets used to pave the roads. I have $200,000 in there. As I said at some of my other meetings, I keep reducing that based on the capital adds of everybody else, but that's obviously up to you. The traditional level has been 250,000. I've moved that down to 200 just to try to pay for other things. That's obviously up to you.
I would suggest that we revert it back to 250,000. I don't know how anyone else feels about that, but we definitely made an effort to, especially because of some of our collective bargaining agreements had big spikes in them, just to keep up with compensation situation with other municipalities in the area. And so we backed off on that last time around, and clearly it's created some problems with the condition of the roads. And so I would say this year we ought to be using the standard investment in repaving or dirt road maintenance. I don't know how anyone else feels about that.
I agree, I think so.
250,000. Yeah. I'll go with that. Justin, when it talks about the town farm, that's the Pease Hill Road, right?
No,
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 Town Farm Road.
it's Town Farm
down
is the Monmouth end of the Whippoorwill Road in Litchfield.
It looks like a
Right
war zone
before-
right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, but-
right before Lintonia.
It looks worse because Litchfield completely rebuilt their
Oh,
end.
yeah.
So when you hit the edge, you know you're in Monmouth.
It's really bad PR.
Yeah.
Everyone in Litchfield is thinking that they live in Litchfield at this point.
Yeah. But those are the ones that were on the list. Those were the ones that were on the list. It doesn't mean that that's what has to be done. So obviously you folks get to decide that, but these are the ones that are on here are the ones that are the ones that were on the next, you know.
By the way, have you made a note to ask the new road commissioner to go check out Peace Hill Road and?
Yes, he's been to all of the roads that are on this list, plus he's driven around. He has not, Peace Hill Road was not on the list, so that's not one of the ones I gave him on a sticky note, but he has driven around. But
Would you make a note that he should just, if he hasn't already, drive down it?
Well, it was called Peace Hill, or was called town. Yes,
Yes. Bird Sanctuary Road.
Right.
There's a cop.
if I can-
And who got it renamed?
Yes, yeah.
Why?
Because we were renamed roads.
She wanted it.
What's the significance of Pease Hill?
Something historical. Maybe.
Maybe it was an older name.
Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know. We know why it was called Town Farm,
They always.
Yeah, because that was-
where the town farm was. So,
Farm was like Barrel Duncan.
Yeah, yeah.
Used to pay for it.
Find it over on this piece of paper. If I can find it later, Ken, I don't know. Detail.
What's the feasibility study, the $6,000?
Okay, yeah, so we go over that one, I'll keep moving through the thing. So the public safety building reserve is something that I'm proposing that you authorize. That would be a vote of the town to create the public safety building reserve, and it would be used to do a feasibility study, engineering, or any other things, and including maintenance and construction of public safety buildings in the town. So the idea would be we would set $60,000 aside, which is the amount that Pine Tree Architecture in Portland, which has a long history of doing public safety type buildings. We would hire them to do a feasibility study, which they think they can do for around $60,000 to investigate the best place and a schematic design, not architectural design, but basic design of a public safety building for the town of Monmouth, what we'd need for the next 20 years. So they would look at the various facilities that we already have, the land that we have down behind the town office, and any other land that they think would be in the best interest. And they would give us that basic cost estimate of what it would cost to build it. That's the idea behind that. So we put money aside to hire them, hopefully in the next year. We do an RFP, but they're the biggest firm that does stuff almost everywhere. That's what that would be for. So we would spend that for that. And I'm proposing that so that we can get at least we would have an opportunity for the voters in the community to have something in front of them that they could decide whether they want to do it or not. It's hard to speculate on what does a fire station / police station look like without having professionals tell you they do all the analysis about response times and where it should be and the size that we might need in 10 years and all that. And it'll give an opportunity for the vested interests in those to have something that they could at least propose to the community that might have a picture with it or a site design. And then they could make the argument to the public whether that was something that they want to do or not. But we can't do that until there's something that's been thought through. So that's my thought with that. Is that fair enough for you, Dan?
Totally.
That's that. So there'd be a public safety building reserve, and then that could be used in the future. Once you create these reserves, the select board gets to decide how to spend the money as long as it's within the scope of what the town meeting approves. So once you put money in there, so for example, say our feasibility study, it won't, but let's just pretend it only costs 30,000. But now there's 30,000 extra sitting there. You folks get to decide how to use that as long as it's within that scope. So it needs to be public safety, building related. So if the voters decide at some future day, there's no way we're building a new fire station, there's 30,000 in there, and the language would be written in a way that if the fire station or the police station needed a new roof, you could just appropriate that. You don't have to go back to the voters because they've already appropriated it for this range of purposes. And then you could decide how to use that. So just so you understand how these reserves work, it creates more flexibility, and it also smooths out the budget process where when the fire department needs a new roof, you don't have to go to the voters and say, I need 30,000 for a roof. There may be money sitting in an account that is for that purpose.
That feasibility study should be.
Ish. There you go. That's why the fire chiefs don't set the budget. But anyway, so I just want to make that clear. That's the advantage to creating the reserve fund. And then it will be sitting there when you need to use it. The Compson Hall Reserve, you'll see that's a new line in this. You'll see there's $0 over there. So the reason for that is because my thought is that if you move forward with the Compson Hall Energy Improvement Project, we should get about $96,000 back in efficiency main rebates. And my recommendation would be to take 50,000 of that 90. The rest of it, you guys can decide later in your process. Take 50,000, put it into a Compson Hall Reserve Fund or Compson Hall Building Maintenance Reserve Fund account, so that it would be there, so that when we have the next flood in the basement of the annex or whatever, there'll be money sitting there available for you folks to decide, okay, we need to put some pumps in, or we need to do whatever. And that won't be, we won't be back to asking the taxpayers to fork that money over. So I would suggest 50,000 would be good for a building that big, because there's always something, right? Like as Compson Hall, you know.
And Mark
There's-
knows.
Right, it never ends over there, right?
Yeah.
So that would be my recommendation. You guys can pick anything you want. The remainder right now has no place in the budget, so that other 45 or 43 or whatever that number might come out to is available. And I want, all of it's available, but if you put the 50,000 over there, there's about $40,000 worth, which is available in rebate money that we could use to maybe fill another hole in the budget. I just want to lay that out. That's why that's in there. But to create the reserve, the town has to vote for that. So there has to be a question that would say something like, can we use the rebate money from the Compson Hall HVAC improvement process and appropriate that money to the reserve? So that's why I left it on this list, because everybody needs to know where it's coming from. I'm also proposing creating the police department equipment reserve fund. Some of this is already kind of built into the budget because you've already approved it. I think it's $4,800, chief, is for the tasers for the next couple of years.
Yeah, 45, 52 for the.
Okay. Yeah, so some of that is in that amount, and then the rest of it is for the cruiser computers.
4,800.
So I'm proposing is creating that police department equipment reserve, and we're gonna spend that reserve pretty much in the year that we create it, but then it will exist, and then in the future, we could decide to budget whatever we think is appropriate. The chief's recommendation will be, in 5 years, we need all the cruiser computers are gonna need to be replaced. So instead of just budgeting 20,000 or whatever to do that, we'll just start putting 2,000 away every year, or whatever it is, you know, the sidearms, all that, they all have life expectancy, and it'd be, in my opinion, it'd be better to just start putting a little bit of money aside into these reserves to make sure that it's there when they need it. The fire department equipment reserve we created last year, it's primarily being used right now to put money aside for the generators. And that's pretty much what that is right there.
We're budgeting.
SCBA.
The SCBA debt fell off. And one of the suggestions is, it's not on this budget plan, but one of the suggestions is to take all or a portion of that savings from the loan no longer being in the budget next year and putting that towards that, so that in the future, when they need large equipment, that we won't have to then go back and borrow money. So I've kind of left that to you at this point. But there was I think it was
25,000.
It was 25,000 a year. So
We're paying on the loan.
we just paid off. So if you're comfortable with some amount more than what's going into the generator, now would be kind of your time if you wanted to kind of, you know, utilize the fact that that's fallen off. You could pick a number somewhere in there and put that into that reserve. So the next time that they need new gear, or, you know, God only knows, there's always, you're right, there's you guys have tons of equipment, so.
Models and SCBA replacement in
Right.
the future.
Right.
There's always something, but we just felt that we've been accustomed the last 7 years of doing the 25,000. That was my suggestion, is maybe we should just continue putting that 25,000 into a fire department equipment reserve for big purchases. But we're getting ready to replace a compressor. Who knows when the other compressor may fail? There's always going to be something. Roof, you know, we got a leak in roof. I mean, we got an aging building, you know, that might need some significant repairs. And I won't even talk to you about the North Station, you know, which gets into the whole public safety building thing. I think it would be a wise choice. But you know, 25,000. You know, we're not asking for, you know, $3 million, which is 25,000 each year set aside for big equipment. Makes it easier than having to come back and say, you know, we need to do an emergency repair or whatever. We don't have the funds to do it. We gotta put it off, and it could lead to other problems or, you know, safety issues with.
So just to reiterate, so with a reserve fund, the fire chief nor I have the authority to spend any money out of that. So anytime that there's an expense, they have to come to you folks. So once it's in that reserve, the town meeting has approved it for specific purposes. And they have to, you know, we would have to come to you to say, this is what we want to buy. Is that okay? Like, I don't have the authority, and neither does the chief, to spend any money out of those accounts. It's only you folks. Just so you know how those work.
I'm
By any
agreeable
amount.
to increasing that to a $25,000 amount. If the net cash flow is zero, right? Because we've just finished the debt service of amount for the SCBA equipment at about $25,000 a year, then I'm agreeable to setting aside that cash flow for reserve fund for a large equipment investment that would require board approval before it was actually expended.
Can I just clarify? So I can make sure. Do you want it 25,000, which is what the debt service was? You want that to be the total, or do you want it on top of the 4,875, which is what we've been putting in for the generator every year?
3 years. Right, get the 30,000
Right.
aside, just for the generator.
I just want to make sure that I understand what you're.
25 as a total. Because if this drops off,
It's got 3 more years of 4,800.
So essentially it's 20,000. So what's the difference between, my question is the PD has a $10,000 reserve and the fire department has a $25,000 reserve. So is there, you've got AR-15s, you've got sidearms, you've got tasers, you've
Our
got
trucks are bigger.
you've got cars, you've got, so
Here
I'm
we
just
go.
thinking about, yeah, so I'm just thinking about everything that you've got and you use. in
Ours
your
are red.
computers That are wear dated, so, all things being equal.
Perspective, some of the computers that we have in the cruisers now are from 2011, and the software.
It doesn't support the stuff, so I
Yeah.
totally get it, so that's why I'm saying, all things being equal, the fire department ask is 25 plus 40, so essentially $30,000. And yours is 10, so I'm just saying, where do we, how does that work?
No offense to the chief, but he's also asking for a new police cruiser, which we haven't gotten to yet. So, right, chief?
30 equilibrium.
So, there's, you're right, Chris, but I'm just,
So,
There's a difference.
I'm half joking,
in
but I'm
what I
just
look
saying.
at between needs and wants. And these are, what's in there is needs,
mhm.
there are no wants in there, so 10,000, I'm comfortable with.
So you can't increase that next year's capital improvement.
correct.
Go ahead with your. Do you want the?
I'm agreeable to, if we're still operating within this year's cash outflow, then I would be agreeable to the total amount of 29,875. I mean, the understanding is that we've still got to approve the expenditure before it goes out the door. So if there's something that is not reasonable, we get another bite at the apple. This is basically, we're setting aside the money in case it's needed, and then we get to decide again.
What do you think?
I just like round numbers, so. like-
Round it up to 30.
Well, no, I would say, no, I'm gonna do 25 and leave it at 25, and then in 3 years, it's gonna be 25, even if there's, a generator coming out of it for the next 3 years, so, I mean, that's just how I think about those things, so. That's just my brain thinking about it. Mark, do you have any input on that? He doesn't.
He's gone to sleep.
He's also muted, so.
I heard he said round up to 30. He's not denying it.
Mark, you're frozen if you can hear us.
Well, let's round it up.
He dropped
Coming
it.
back
He
to it.
lost his. Lost
Yeah,
his-
Mark, again.
He's going.
He's probably trying to get back on, but I lost him the last time too. So,
Can we move on?
We can set that one aside and get back to it.
yeah.
Do you want to set aside? Okay, yeah, that's fine. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's it on the budget. Other than that, we need to move into the capital list. There's the big sheet with all the colors on it. Anybody want one back there? You guys? Well, okay, well, look at that. Everybody's got one. Okay, so The stuff at the top is stuff we already have. These are leases or they're mostly leases or loans for equipment at the top, the first blue part.
So this is debt service?
Current leases and reserves.
Okay.
This top part here, that's got the gray boxes. Gray boxes indicate when they're gonna fall off. So there is some stuff that's gonna fall off after this next budget. The next line down, like the pink salmon color. That's the bonded debt. So Academy Road, Packard Gilman, Wilson Pond, Culvert, and the Academy building. Those are the payments that are due on those.
So it's interesting to me to note that that amounts to about $250,000 a year that were
The bonded debt.
the bonded debt.
Yep.
And most of that, I'm imagining these are all pretty low interest.
The ones that are on here are very low because
Yeah.
they were all bonded during, somewhere between 2018.
So the reality of this is that the majority of the 250,000 is a principal payment, essentially. Because the interest is super low.
It is. It's probably all sub 4%. I know it's all sub 4%. So then, as you move down, the green items are all the ones that are on the list of, those are your choices. So then the blue at the bottom is the TIF expenditures. The Main Street sidewalk, all I've done is I keep moving that, the Main Street, I keep moving it right because we don't have any payments on that until they actually build Main Street, which is up to the state. So that doesn't exist at the moment. The Maple North Main Beach, that's that money, but that's TIF expenditure. So it doesn't hit the tax rate in the same way that other loans will. So we're really talking about what's underneath the green item. And where this gets a little wonky is, so the public safety building reserve is pretty straightforward, right? It would be you appropriate the 60,000 to put it in there. When you go down to the Cocknowagon, Beaver, Woodbury, Beaver Brook additional, what we're talking about there is the town has already approved $390,000 to do all those projects. We're a little short. So I need an additional $35,000 to complete the Beaver Brook project.
So we kind of have to do that. I mean,
Ideally, or we have a very expensive culvert that's gonna act as a garage up at Public Works.
and a road that's washed out that are potentially on the verge of washing out.
Yes, exactly.
And did we ever hear back about Litchfield, not Litchfield, sorry, Leeds and Wayne being,
Once I got the final estimate of the thing, I'm starting to chase them around again. I'm trying to find out what Yogi Bear might be willing to
Yeah.
pay, but the fact is it's gonna show up as revenue
yes.
to Monmouth.
exactly.
We still have to budget all of the costs because the project has to get done. So it'll come as revenue on the other side, and the next year, if we have extra revenue, it'll go into the fund balance, and then you can appropriate it out to try to relieve the taxpayers. The problem is that it's our project, so we have to pay for it.
Mhm.
So go back to that. So you can see on the constant, so if I go down, I haven't borrowed any money for that yet. It's been authorized by the taxpayers, but I haven't borrowed it. We're fortunate, we sit on a nice cash reserve in this community where I was able to pay all those bills without borrowing any money, knowing that we were gonna have potentially a salt shed, and I didn't know how much money that Beaver Brook crossing was, so I've held off on bonding it. If you choose to move forward with a salt shed or not, it'll give me an indication, because I can borrow money as one loan for all of that stuff, because in my opinion, they're all 20, 25, 30-year assets. We're not gonna rebuild the Cocknowagon Dam again for 30 years, at least. Same thing, if we build a salt shed, it's gonna be there for 30 years. We build the Beaver Brook crossing, it's gonna be a 30-year bridge that we're building. So these things can all be put together. So that's why this gets a little wonky. So if you look at the salt shed loan, that's an amount. That's what the estimate would cost if I borrowed money just for the salt shed. So if I borrow that plus the Cocknowagon Dam, you're going to take the 12,000 in this year and add the 9 to it, that's over there. I can answer any questions you want, but I just want you to know that like the ideal would be that those would all be borrowed together. So you need to kind of add them up. So you need to take the Cocknowagon, Beaverbrook, Woodbury, that 9,000, that's kind of the right. Plus the 35,000, which is pretty insignificant when you throw it into a loan that big. But if you add the two together, it's a $1.2 million bond. 390,000 has already been authorized by the voters. So it's not a new, we don't have to ask for that. We've already approved it. So as the treasurer, I can borrow it in any way that you people see fit. So the question would be is if you want to approve salt shed, that's $750,000. So you would put that on the budget and then I would borrow them together. It would be $1.1 million when I've actually borrowed it. The question on the ballot would be 750 plus interest. Does that make sense?
It's that much.
At this point, yeah, it's from 10 years ago, it's climbed from 300,000 to 750,000.
We were talking last night at our Economic Development Committee meeting or with the climate change. And these, nothing for winters, are we gonna need to do salt priority? I guess that's something.
If Tony was here, he would tell you that the amount of sand that we spread on the roads in this town is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
He would tell you that. I mean, I'm not a road person, so I can't speak more than that, but one of his first trips out here was like, there's too much sand on the road. We have to pick it all up,
Yes.
right? Like in the spring, they come around, they have to pick it all up.
Or go in the lake.
Right, right. He's a big fan of salt priority. So he's already going to transition half of the routes. The problem is we have a lot of dirt roads in this town.
Yes. So we
Which
still
is unusual.
have sand.
We have to have sand because you can't spread salt on dirt roads. It turns into mud, right?
Yeah.
So. But the other roads, he's completely in agreement that we need to move. And he's gonna do it one way or the other. So whether you build him a salt shed or not, there's gonna be less sand spread next winter, right? Under his leadership, at least, he's gonna spread a lot less sand. Then
Salt. Shit.
more salt, less sand.
And he's convinced then that a salt shed is gonna be absolutely necessary in order for that to be sort of the standard policy.
If we want to go true salt priority, yes, there's not enough storage space in that
Little
building.
building.
The tiny thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't store enough up for 2 or 3 storms that might happen in a row. Do that, there's just not enough space. You can't store enough salt. Right now, we have the salt truck come once a week. And we don't do salt priority at all. We throw a lot of sand and a little salt everywhere. If we move to more salt, he's gonna need more salt containment. You can't put salt outside because it runs into the lake.
Yeah. Or the aquifer.
Right, or whatever, yeah.
In the brook that's right there. Going along beside the Public Works Department.
I mean, he's just saying that, whether you approve it or not, he's gonna move more towards that way. And he'll manage what he has to manage, like he's not trying to give you an ultimatum or anything. He's just saying that we are gonna move. His goal is to move less sand, more salt.
5 years from now, that salt shed will be over $1 million. Just keep going up.
Exactly.
Well, and we've been talking about it for 3-4 years now.
Kirby was here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, my time on the board, it's been every year, like, hey, we gotta get to that.
About 20 years.
It's not a fun thing to pay for. I mean, it's just a salt shed, right? I mean, but
But it comes down to the safety of the brooks. And, so either we use a whole bunch of sand that we have to clean up or because keep touching it. It's like firewood or hay, you know, you're just touching this stuff.
Right.
In some form or another. You either feed the hay out and then you shovel the manure. So, you know, you put it in the barn, you feed the hay, shovel the manure.
Right, and like the
So,
sand pile,
The
right?
sand pile.
They have to put salt in it so
Exactly.
it doesn't freeze solid. So they're
Exactly.
moving it all around all the
Yes.
time to try to keep it. You know, it's just.
And it's
a-
wear and tear on the equipment and it's, you know, it snowballs. In a manner of speaking, no pun intended.
Yep.
So-
Snowballs, I agree.
So, you know, for me, moving towards that, what we've talked about for so long,
think it's time.
I think it's time. I think it's time, especially we've got the person that already knows how to do it here. He's done it in every community he's worked in. And-
Equipment done.
And he knows how to set the equipment up and he knows how to instruct the guys how to do it, you know, because he's done it. So we've got him and he knows what he's doing and he wants to do it. I think it's time we do it. So,
All right, I'll follow Chris's lead on that one.
So the first year is if we do a bond bank bond, which I would throw all the other stuff in there too, because it's all, I need some indication about how many years you want to borrow it for. You can do anywhere from 10 to 30. So $50,000 a year, so that next year isn't the issue, because that would be an interest only payment. That's the way it works. So the first year you borrow it, you only pay it. So it'd only be like 12 or 15,000. And then it would go to 50, 60, 70, 80, depending how many years you wanted to borrow it out.
And if there's a substantial change in interest rates in the, mid-course of this loan, can we refinance?
No,
no.
So we're locked into the interest rate that we've got.
the interest rates with the bond bank are still quite low. So the highest they're gonna get is 4.5.
Oh, okay, that's not bad. And then I would say it's at a minimum a 20-year asset.
I agree with you.
It's probably gonna last longer than that.
Yep.
You don't wanna go upside down on something like that, so I would say a 20-year commitment, is probably realistic.
And I think I put
You did 10,
I put
15,
some
and 25.
in front of you, I put some numbers in front of you. I put for the salt shed question, I put a 10, 15, and a 25 year, just so you could see what the payment looks like.
Amortization schedule.
Yeah.
And if you,
You can see like depending on what you do, it's still sub 4%. It's not. Just depends on how many years you want. And then this one here that says 25, this has everything. So if you look at the headers, I tried to explain it up there. So there's one of them that says Salt Shed, Beaverbrook, Cocknowagon, and Woodbury, 25 years. That's when if I were to borrow it all, that would be the 1.1 million. That's what you're looking at on a 25-year. You see that one, Ken?
Yeah.
I mean,
Salt Shed, Beaverbrook, Cocknowagon, Woodbury, 25 years.
yeah. That's all those together. So the 390's already been authorized by the voters, so I have to borrow that at some point anyway, because right now I'm paying those bills out of the fund balance. So I'm gonna borrow that money. So that's just that money added to the 750 for the salt shed.
And so it's interest only year one,
And then you'll see one of them, and then every
and
year.
then
it's like,
it fluctuates between $85,000 a year to
Down.
$50,000.
Yep, as you get closer to paying it off, it drops.
I'm comfortable with I don't know if I'm comfortable with a 25-year, but if you could arrange a 20-year, I think,
I can do any denomination between 30 and 5.
yeah, I would say 20 years. I mean, all of those assets are at a minimum 20-year assets. So
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think you could do any number that you're comfortable with, but clearly, if you build a salt shed, it's definitely gonna last you more than 20 years. I mean, it's a big laminated arch building. It's a steel concrete walls with a paved bottom. I mean, it's a substantial structure.
Right. Mark's familiar with that type of construction. Mark, what do you think about that idea?
I believe it certainly would outlast a 20-year bond for sure.
Do you think it's realistic to expect that that building is going to be at least a 20-year, maybe a 30 or longer type of structure?
Oh, absolutely.
So you want to go 20 or 20?
I'd go 20. Say it again?
How much is 20?
We don't know precisely
It would
because we
be,
specifically.
I can give you an idea. You want just what the salt shed would cost or all of it together?
Yeah, no, the 1.1.
So the 1.1, if it's 25 years, the first few years, the first year that we pay all of it will be 85,000.
And then it
It
declines.
drops about
Declines down.
2,000 or 3,000 a year every year until it hits the bottom at 40.
So 20-year would be 90,
Yeah.
92.
You'd subtract, you'd add 25%. So it's probably closer to the 100 at the beginning. And then declining to 60-ish.
Back then,
So it was only 25,000 bucks.
it's 1.1 million.
So it's just. I'm just trying to make sure I understand because I have to put this together. It's 20 years what you guys are.
Yes.
Good, all of you? Okay, 20 years.
Conservative.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure so I can write that. Because the next time you guys see this, it'll be on a warrant, so I just have to make sure. Gumpston Hall Energy Efficiency Project, it's a lease purchase agreement. It's about $36,000 a year. I put a great big spreadsheet in front of you, I think. That shows the payback. Looks like this. Down to the bottom, you can see it's a 15-year term. There's a 96, according to the estimates, there's a $96,000 energy rebate. And you can see that the utility savings. Where does it say it here? Yeah, so that's,
Energy saving.
yeah, it's about $9,000 in the first year, and that's purely a number 2 heating oil, basically. That's what we'd save, and because we're gonna put a multi, it's like a big heat pump system along with one of those like wall mounted, infinite
On-demand water.
on-demand heat, water heating systems to do the backup. And instead of, right now, we have, I think there's like 2 zones in the whole building. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like the library and then the rest of the building. So when you turn it on, you're heating up this, that massive structure all the time. And this would allow it to be dialed into areas that are being used. And part of this project also includes, which they've already been over there, not only removing the big condensers for the AC, those would disappear, so we wouldn't be paying for those anymore. Remove the great big boiler out of the basement. We'd add heat pumps in the building, and that cost also includes having a energy efficiency audit, which they've already done.
Yes.
But it will include winterizing, windows, insulation, all that is all included in this.
Well, that goes.
Yep,
Yes.
Have access to the sprinkler.
absolutely. Yeah, all that stuff's gonna disappear.
And, the biggest problem with that building is the beautiful stained glass. And they work with a company that will be able to put I believe on the inside, because of course there's certain things you can't just cover over leaded glass, because the lead heats up and then the glass falls out, but they work with a company that's done it before and they put glass on the inside so that it prevents heat from going out and keeps the cool air in as well. So, I mean, Dennis has, Dennis loves that building and Dennis has worked with these people and given us updates all along through the process. So I think this is a wonderful investment for this building that is going to help dramatically with electricity for air conditioning and heating oil to heat it. I mean, obviously, that's all.
Over the cash flow of the project, the town should save about $250,000 while we're paying the rent or the lease.
Yes,
After that, it's all in our pocket, but we should still save $250,000.
definitely. So,
So how long is the agreement?
15 years.
So
It's
over
a
the
lease
course of a
purchase.
15-year lease agreement, we're gonna save $250,000.
Yep.
And then at the end of the 15-year period, we're saving what?
I just gave my own. It's, so we saved, by just doing the project, we saved about $9,000 a year in number 2 heating oil. And then the net cash flow increases as we go along. So we save $250,000 over the amount. So we'd save the 9,000 plus the, I mean, some of this is kind of speculative because you get out 15 years and the right, like electricity and stuff, like who knows? Right. But,
Well, we know that the average over the last 50 years is about 3% increase in electricity.
right. So you could do that. So this math right here only does the 250,000 over the amount. It doesn't speculate past the amount of the lease. The percent of cost, including interest covered, including the interest that we pay to the company for financing it for us, is 53%.
And the
Project price is $481,000 to do the work, plus the 96,000 we get back in incentives from Efficiency Maine, plus the 250,000 in savings in heating oil and electricity.
And so some of the equipment that we're putting in is like, 30-year assets, like the windows, for example, are gonna be 30-year, if they do insulation.
They're also doing insulation.
That's a very long-term asset. Do we have a sense of what to expect in terms of the life of the heating system, the heat pumps that they're talking about?
I don't recall what they said about, I don't know.
I can't remember either, but I mean, I would assume.
What do you think, Dave?
Definitely,
20?
yeah.
They start to deteriorate after 15, and
How long?
to 20.
How long has and I wish Dennis were here, how long have the existing condensers been? I think he said 25.
Yeah, that's when they,
2000.
yeah, that's when they did the renovation.
So those don't owe us too much.
Yeah.
And the ones that are there are basically beyond useful life, and whether we move this way or we replace what's there, something has to happen.
Right.
So
So it makes
we
sense
could
for us to
replace it.
go in a way that's gonna save us some money.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not, the motivation of this project is mostly to save the town money, but there's a whole other spreadsheet if people are interested in about the carbon footprint too, by moving to what they're suggesting. We're also moving that way. We've removed a bunch of carbon footprint, and it's a more green solution. I'm not an expert on that, so I don't want to pretend that I am, but there is a different spreadsheet that shows that on there. I didn't share it with you because it's. What's that? The reval we already talked about. If you look at the big chart, it shows the 25,000 for next year. That's what I need to complete the contract. The remaining numbers are just we created our revaluation reserve. So the idea would be to just keep putting money aside so that in another decade, there's money there to pay for the next one. But that's obviously, that's a budgetary thing every year. The, police chief has a new 3-year lease in there, so that's the 18,500. That's the cost of a new Ford Explorer, I believe, but
And Chief, this replaces what vehicle?
2016.
7-year-old vehicle. With how many miles on it?
The mileage on that, I think we're up to like 163 on that, 163.
Okay.
So it's.
That's
It
the
doesn't-
one that he's had in there. That's Kirk's car that keeps going
Actually,
in.
it's Zach's car. that-
Oh, Zach's now.
Yeah, that's the one. It needs a new exhaust system to the cost of, I think it's like $2,300.
You mean it won't pass inspection?
It did. With
Just
some
giving you a hard
with some
time.
welding and some tin work.
I'm just ringing your bell.
I didn't want to put the money into it knowing that we were gonna be replacing it.
All right, and then police cruiser computers, $4,800.
Dell Technologies, Dell Computer. So. This is for.
Four computers that are from what year? From what year? How old are the computers?
They're brand new.
No, no, the ones that are.
The old ones are, we have some that are 2011. Now we got some that we bought a couple of years ago. eBay that we use. I think that's 15 to 16, 2015 to 16, Amazon.
Okay. And will this give you sort of an up-to-date operating system? And,
Absolutely. Yeah, they'll be brand new.
Okay.
Problem is that we've got computers that, purpose of them in the cars is to keep you guys out on the roads. So they need to be seen. Allows them to do the work on the computers in the cars. The software that we have in them now, to run like main crash reports. We can't run in there because main crash updated their systems. And these computers are no longer compatible with them. So that's the problem we're running into. It's just.
He brought all of these computers to my attention before our IT vendor brought them to my attention, and they're on that. We have 15 computers townwide that are no longer supported or secure. And
yeah,
half of them were his, and they were the ones in the cruisers and stuff. So they all need to go for not only his purposes, but also just for the town network security. They're on there and they're not hacked. They can't be supported anymore. So they're creating a vulnerability to the whole town network.
yeah, we don't need the Chinese government understanding.
What's going on? Secret.
TikTok.
Exactly.
Well, that makes sense. It seems to me like all of these items on our capital list are long-term and also long-standing issues that given where we've been last year, where we had a substantial spike in our labor costs. We sort of made it through that adjustment. And now we can kind of turn our attention to some longer standing issues that require a substantial amount of investment. But are issues that we can finally get to. I mean, we put all of that aside last year, knowing that there was like an 8% increase that we had to swallow. for some of the collective bargaining, just to hold on to employees. So it seems to me like all of the things that you're proposing here, I mean, some of them pay for themselves. You know, the Compton Hall energy improvement stuff is a boat that floats on its own, but some of the others, I think it's time.
And before we move to the other question, I just want to make sure that you're all aware that in the budget that I proposed, I've only utilized 50,000 of the estimated 95,000 in efficiency main rebates that we're gonna get. Now that it seems like you're gonna do the Compton Hall project, if you do that, we expect that we would get that money sometime in October or November. So that money is completely, you can utilize that in your next budget cycle if you want to, or we can just put it in a reserve somewhere. But I just want to just remind you all that there's still 40-something thousand that's on the table that you can do what you want with. Or, I mean, there's 90,000, right? Of
Yeah.
course, you guys can do whatever you want. My suggestion was to put 50 in a Compton Hall maintenance reserve, but there's more money there that you can use to offset the tax rate next year.
Can you remind me of the time frame for a revaluation process? I know that what's being proposed here would sort of finish off funding the revaluation. What's the time frame for implementation and then actually giving property owners and the appeal process and actually getting to the point where the new valuations would hit the bills?
Sure. So the contract calls for an April 1, 2025, which means the bills that would go out in October of 2025 would reflect the new values.
So we'll have one more year of the old valuation.
Correct.
Piece.
This budget you're putting together now would be under the old values.
Valuation.
Yep. And the next year would include all of that in theory. Yep. So we would think that the evaluation notices, we commit, August, September, something like that. So I would expect that the valuation notices would start going out, not this summer, but the next. That's when all the hearings would happen.
And
When you'll all want to take a 2 or 3 month vacation.
I'll be on vacation. I'm gonna be busy. And just to reiterate for folks who might be listening in, it's been 17 years since we've had boots on the ground and done a townwide survey of all the property. And so there were in the intervening 17 years, there were a couple of years during the pandemic when we didn't have a code person and we don't know exactly what happened. So this is why the revaluation process has come to fruition.
That's got added on.
Maybe hypothetical decks.
There, you found your list.
There it is.
Do we want to circle back, now that Mark is back here, do we want to circle back on the question of the fire department's equipment reserve?
Did you hear our?
Keeps going
That's
up.
when we lost you, Mark. We were talking about what that reserve budget made sense to be.
Yes, and sorry, I've got a poor connection. I'm actually on my phone now. I hope this is gonna work better. I was fine with the 25,000.
Total?
Yes, total.
24, 25 or 30. So currently, Mark, there's almost 5,000 going into a generator reserve. So the question was, do you want it to be 30 or 25 total?
I was fine with 25 total.
That's what I was thinking, 25, so. I don't know.
You what? No, I
They wanted
was
30,
at
putting them together.
29,875. So then
Now we
we
got three numbers.
so then we can compromise it, 29,875.
So it's either 25 or 30. You're the tiebreaker.
You figured out, Doug.
I'll do 30.
Okay.
30, 29,875. Which one, Doug?
30.
30? Okay, 30.
We have. For a 30.
I got it. I think that, oh, no, we got the big question here.
Big question.
So talking about, we got the final numbers to bring the Academy building to completion. And we met on Monday, and the number that we're bringing forward to bring it to completion is, 700,000. And then we've got 70,000 sitting there in donations so far, so we will have, enough to bring it to completion. We do have grants out there, but the deadlines haven't happened yet, so we don't know, because there's, the deadline and then the decision period. This will give us a building that has toilets, has the catering kitchen, which all of the equipment for the catering kitchen has been donated. The thought here is if we're doing a bond, we can do a bond for that amount. And like Justin said, he would lump it in and do one large bond with the salt shed, the money for the Woodbury, and then the Academy. And obviously, that building's gonna be around for more than 25 years. It's already been there since 1856. We're going to get it to completion. As an economic development person, that will be something that can bring revenue to the town, because if we use Dennis's calculations for rental, a resident renting the entire building, the footprint and the outdoor space would be around $1,200 to rent that building. And they'd have a catering kitchen, they could have wedding events, they could have, receptions, reunions, meetings, conferences. It can be used by the fire department, the police department, whoever is doing a conference. They could host conferences and bring speakers in. So, it will cover the opportunities, plus you'll have the archive space, which is this, you'll see next week. There's a smaller area that's a smaller, like 25-person room. And then you'll have obviously the library space, and, looking at voting there, having our select board meetings in there. Then if whatever happens over here in this space, it can be returned to rec, or it can be used for whatever, this space is getting used more and more and more by people. And the discussion about storage space, about where things can be stored, we'll have about 600 square feet of storage on the second floor over there to store records that don't need to be at the town office. So, there's a lot of opportunities for that building, and we'll be able to put it to use. And the rental costs will cover the monthly costs of heat, electricity, sewer, water, that type of thing. So the mining for money is ongoing. So, and that looking for people to donate different things to finish off the building is ongoing too. So the money that we're asking for to finish the building is pretty much the 40% of increase of costs since the pandemic, of labor costs and materials costs, mostly labor costs. But in talking with the architects and the general contractor or construction manager, Nickerson and O'Day, and with Dawn Hudson, she says, this is what we're seeing, that 40%. So this will bring it to a building that is completed and usable. If we don't do it, then we've got a building that we can't use and we're paying to sit there and look at it. So. Dave?
We're paying 127 something now, I think.
In debt service.
Yeah.
So what will that number be adding your proposal?
So if we do, this is 25 years, so I'm going on this, 25 years. So it would add, these are,
The first one.
these are annual, so we would add, starting at 52, so we'd be at
180.
180.
$180,000 in debt service for the
And
next.
that stays straight through though. It doesn't.
It will go down, yes, it
What-
goes down.
What we're doing now, the 1.5 million bond doesn't go
It
down.
doesn't, but the thing about this is this original bond is a bond, but it has a piece in it that was written in smartly by Linda to be able to prepay that. So any donations we get, we can go onto that original one, and we can, for the second ask, we can get a bond through the bond bank that we can't prepay, but we have the option to use those grants and things that we get to prepay this original one. So we do have the ability to do that.
On the first one.
On the first
It
one,
has a no penalty on the prepay on the first bond.
yeah, which is,
But there's still
The original
expenses
1.5 million.
That, you would use the rentals to pay the expenses, I would think,
Yeah.
rather than pay.
exactly, yeah, the rentals would pay the expenses, but if we get donations and grants, which are ongoing, which we're still going to pursue,
That could pay down
the first one. So that's the beauty of that first ask, was that is written into the terms.
Okay.
So we can prepay that. I don't foresee us throwing up our hands and saying we're not gonna keep asking. We're going to, Steve Eldridge and I plan on still filling out every grant we get.
He knows how to make 17,000.
Well, the part about this is I've got a wonderful group of people on our committee. Extremely educated with construction, between Steve Brown and the years he spent at Peachy, Dawn with her husband and her company, Dr. Bougie with his information from the museum. Luckily I've got Doug on there, so now we have a quorum. Doug is our quorum.
Don't know anything about them.
But the thing is, and then with Steve Eldridge volunteering his time, and the problem is, there's not with my committee, the fundraising has fallen to me. And I'm okay with that, because I wanted to do that. Luckily, Steve Eldridge stepped up to help us because he knows how to write things, because he's done it for other municipalities. But if I was going to try to run a fundraiser like Dan did, you would be picking me up in an ambulance, because I don't have that kind of time and I don't have that kind of manpower. So that is not something. I have raised $70,000 by writing letters and asking people, and selling throws and asking people to buy windows. So, old families in town, the Chips, because their father was the headmaster, on and on and on. But that's how I raised $70,000, is writing letters and then going, oh my God, somebody sent me money. or not sent me money, sent the town money, and it appears on a spreadsheet, and I get excited by that. So, there's still work to be done to get more, because the problem that I've struggled with, and I'll be emotional about it, is that I've had to come back and ask for this.
And that's gonna be your stumbling block.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But I'm emotional about it because I don't ever want to put the town in that position, or the people of the community in that position. But how much sense does it make to have a building that you can't flush a toilet in, and you're paying $127,000 a year to look at? So do we finish it, or do we just keep paying for it and not be able to use it? So why not use it, finish it, and make it usable?
You have to write that warrant question the right way.
So, yeah.
I'll just start by commenting, and I appreciate all that you've done, Chris. That's obviously, raising 70 grand, that is a big accomplishment. I think your vision is awesome, what that building's gonna be used for. I just wanna see assurance that we're not looking at another Helen Melody Hall that this town's not gonna be using in the future. Cause that was pitched that was gonna be used.
But we don't own that. Helen Melody Hall is not owned by the town. That is owned by the theater.
But it was sold that it would be accessible to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it will be accessible. I want that building used. I want the Academy trustees to go in there and use that and not have to ask permission from the RSU to use a building we pay $500,000 a month to not be able to use. The Academy trustees, you'll be able to, if you wanted to, with that catering kitchen, you could host your fireman dinners in there. We're gonna have AV, it won't have a kitchen like the kitchen at the school, but it'll have a catering kitchen in there. You'll be able to bring in chafing dishes and warming trays and crock pots and things like that. The problem Dennis struggled with when he hosted this wedding down at Cumston, it was a logistical nightmare. Because they couldn't have open flames, so you couldn't have like a sterno thing under food to keep it warm. They had to buy like electric plates to set their food on to keep it warm. And then they were walking to go get a drink and then bringing it back to the caucus hall. And then to dance, they had to walk and go upstairs back into the theater space. And Dennis kept thinking, oh my God, look at all these places people can trip and fall and hurt themselves. Well, that building is all one level. Nobody's gonna be going up or downstairs unless they want to access the patio, which there will be stairs to get down to the home ec room, which we left that concrete pad to be able to have patio space.
So another question I have is, just added a lot more debt service with salt shed and other expenditures coming up in, 20 years, and, and now if this gets approved, 700,000 to the 1.5 million, that's already bonded out. How many years is that from 1.5? I only counted 12 fiscal years.
That-
If you added, you mean to they
The
just decided
original.
20 years for
It was
the,
the 20, okay.
The
The salt
original
shed,
loan,
right.
the original loan for the academy,
The 1.5
you and I
for the
looked at that, it was
that's 25.
25 originally, so.
So to my point is, adding this debt service, decades and add some more, this fiscal year with the capital improvement. And just thinking future, are we still gonna be able to accomplish things as a town for our infrastructure that's, use the fire station as an example, is that gonna hurt our chances of getting a new fire station a few years from now or 10 years from now, because we're adding all this debt? And I know you don't have the answers, but
Justin, what do you envision the article in the warrant would say about this, the account?
So you get to decide what the front part of that question says. There's a big chunk of it that I have to put down. And that will just be required in order to get a bond. So the bond bank or any bank will require. When you decide what's gonna be in this warrant, I send the entire warrant to our town council and they tell us what the bond questions exactly have to say, because every year, legislature changes something and they have to change the wording. So a huge chunk of it turns into this, kind of nonsense legalese thing so that the bond will pass the people that are gonna lend you the money. But the front part, you can say what you want. It's your question.
Shall the town borrow such and such
Yes,
in order to restore or finish the restoration project at the?
yes. Yeah, absolutely. You can say anything you want up on the front part. Just the rest of it, I have to just defer to the lawyers. But yes, you can put it, that's what it would say, something along those lines.
And then Justin and I talked about, because it always comes down to what does that mean? When you're buying a house and you're arguing about $5,000, what does that $5,000 mean over the course of a 30-year loan, right? So ends up being pennies. So we talked about for a $700,000 bond for 25 years. And an average of a $300,000 house in the town, it turns out being $33 a year in taxes. It's $33 a year taxes. So that's what we're looking at for the salt shed. So that's $33. And then this would be 33. And then if you look at putting that Woodbury Pond in there, it'd probably end up being, a total of $75 in taxes. That, right, kind of balling it all together, if you did one loan.
Right. Yep.
So that's what we're looking at.
Sure you could finish this for the 700,000 and there's not gonna be an ask 3.
So the Cadillac ask was this, we sat down with all the numbers and the going hard and overestimating was 9. And then we brought it back and said, well, where do we go from there? He said, you've got money left that we're working with. And we talked with the guy that does all the cost estimating for Nickerson and O'Day and has been working on this project since the beginning. And we came back to 7 plus the 70,000 we have sitting there. So we were.
I'll end on this. Did you guys, as a committee, consider doing a pause? Maybe just working on some more grants and seeing if those come to fruition before coming.
We will never be able to get the amount of grants we need to bring this. And so by pausing it, we lose our construction manager and probably, the architect, and have to go back to the drawing board and RFP when the money comes in. But again, why are we paying this amount to look at it and say, okay, that looks great, but we can't go in there and we don't have a toilet to flush.
Do this for 1.5 million.
What was that?
You guys, when you started, you could do it for that budget, the original 1.5 million.
We did, but I didn't make COVID happen.
Wow.
So,
I'm cautiously optimistic. That's my opinion. I'm in favor of having that facility. I just, at what costs, and I just wanna have assurance for me and for people that ask for my opinion, I can report back to them with more information. That's why I'm looking forward to the walkthrough next week, so I can see it with my own eyes. Because a lot of this is not getting out to the public, what's going on.
well, there's a website out there and we've got a link on the website that shows every step that's gone and happened over there.
Okay.
There's a website, restorema.org, that's on the town website, and you can see every step that's happened. And because every day we get a report from the contractor with photos, and all those photos have been uploaded to the website to show step by step of what's occurred over there. So,
Send them right to it.
so. And it has a ton of information on there. And, you know, the reason there's nothing going on now is because there wasn't heat and we couldn't get heat in there before, because the power wasn't hooked up before winter came. So we couldn't do anything. You can't install sheetrock and then leave it there without heat in the building. So we had to stop over the winter. So really nothing, no costs have occurred other than Jimmy hooking up the sewer. And, you know, the architect with his ongoing, you know, plans and all of that. So, because we meet with them monthly. And what I'll say is, you know, we have a monthly meeting where we sit and hash and decide what's gonna happen, and no money has been spent on something that was temporary. That's why there's no lights in there. You know, we didn't wanna hang up pigtails and then have to take them down. There was never anything done temporarily that was gonna have to be ripped down and done permanently. So we were very, very careful in where and how the money was spent. And I can say that our construction manager, they've been amazing. And that's why the other thing, we don't want to lose them. They know this project, they know the building, they know what needs to be done. And when you start with a contractor, you want to finish with the contractor. So.
What action do we have to take tonight as a board?
To decide whether to put it on the warrant.
Okay,
And
so
then,
is that the question then?
Yeah.
Well, let's,
Basically, like you get to decide that really at your next
Next
meeting,
meeting.
because your next meeting is the public hearing. And after that, I need to know for your first meeting in April, because you have to sign the document.
Yeah.
So
can we
At your next-
table it to the next meeting then?
and that's why, you know, I've been trying to get, you know, everybody in there to see it so they can see the potential and what's been done to it and the amount of work that's been done to it. So,
your next meeting, you have to decide,
Yeah.
but this one you do not.
Let's table, I move to table it.
Well, before we do, it sounds to me like we've got some folks who might be interested in making a comment.
I have a general question for the whole board, possible group board. Obviously, that's a lot of money as any. Would be with multiple items. Is there anything coming up, any debt service we're looking to retire that, like we talked about the year packs have finally gone, there's 25,000 now that. we can work with something else, is there something else we can rise and say, wow, that might give a little relief towards this?
I was just looking at that view and you recall it, we started off by saying we've got about a debt service amount that's about $250,000 a year. And of that $250,000, we are gonna lose $16,000 of that in 2028. And then another $124,000 of that debt service would retire in 2031. 2031.
2030.
That's when your fire trucks fall off, and you're probably gonna want new ones, right? I'm just kidding, but you know,
It's when the
you know,
Packard Gilman project is paid for and when the Wilson Pond culvert is paid for.
Trying to see if there's anything coming our way.
Well,
There's
I
nothing
mean,
big.
Nothing big.
I mean, the only other item that is of any consequence is one of the is the lease for the DPW dump truck, but every time one of those falls off, we always need another one. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really do anything. We just kind of,
it's an ongoing.
when one falls off, we buy another one. Yeah, because they're only good for so long. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yep.
Well, I'll renew my motion. Let's table to the next meeting.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think it's important for people to see what we've done inside there.
And get a realistic view of what still needs to be done and whether 700,000 is
Yep,
in the ballpark.
yep. Yep.
We need a motion.
I made the motion.
Yes.
I'll
Joe made a
second
motion.
that, yeah.
Chris seconded it. And we'll move to the table. Discussion of the Academy building progress. All those in favor?
Yep.
Yes,
Mark says yes,
Back,
and his lips are moving.
yes.
yes.
Chris, let's go.
Yeah, so.
Blue Rock Earthworks Materials Transport, $2,772. M-Search Public Works Diesel Tank Additive, $1,900.96. Columbia Classic Cars, multiple repairs to, it looks like, police department vehicles, $2,212.16.
2016 Ford.
Huh? It says a couple. It says 21, 20, 2016, 19. Dennis K. Burke, diesel fuel and gas for the public works department, $5,306. Dry Masters, Maine, Thompson Hall, flood mediation for the annex building, $1,561. Boy and King. That's the, North Monmouth Water Project, $3,710. Avian Oil, $6,990, heating for town buildings, Grimmel Industries, $2,532, demo removal for the transfer station. Jensen Baird, our municipal attorney, $1,515. Maine Municipal Association, annual dues, $5,005. Monmouth Museum, Apple Fest, invoice, I don't know if it's Apple Fest. I think it's just their annual, amount we give them annually through the tip, $2,000. Power plan, loader repairs, this is the loader issue, $26,813.90, better than we thought. State of Maine Bureau of Motor Vehicles, $10,884, for a total of $81,183.96.
Make a motion, we accept fiscal year 2023-24 warrant number 17 and 18.
Second,
So the motion by Ken, second by Joe to approve the warrant. All those in favor?
Mark says.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I make a motion, we enter executive session pursuant to one MRSA.
Thank you.
435 6A for the purpose of personnel.
I'll second that. I have to leave, right?
Yes,
I'm sitting home.
go home.
I'm gonna go.
Actually, I have to leave anyway, because you guys want to talk, right? You haven't talked before this?
We have not talked.
Okay, so I will leave for a few minutes, if you want me to.
stay for a while, and then you can leave.
No, I can leave. Okay, well, I'm still going to go use the bathroom first. And then I will be right back.
Sing along. After,
Stand up.
Yes.
I'll let you go first.
My, I don't know. Yeah.
Because they think somehow these two things are mutually exclusive, but why do they need to be mutually exclusive?
Exactly.
Hopefully the
I am-
YouTube video gets on there. I can just see what 12 and 13 and 14 is.
Right now, I'm president of the Kennebec District.
So I move we come out of executive session.
Second,
All those in favor?
Yes.
And
And I make a motion, we approve the town manager's employment contract extension with, as amended.
I'll second that.
the motion by Chris, second by Kent, to approve the town manager's contract with that one addition or change. All those in favor?
Yes.
Thank you.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
All those in favor?
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Mark.
Thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you, guys. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
You should be serving breakfast right now.